Hello, everyone. If I've done everything correctly, if the PDFs have been rotated accordingly, then theoretically, we are now live. I'm just waiting for chat to say something so that I know you can actually hear me. Hello, yes, good, excellent, we are live, and you can hear me, good. Now, is the music too loud? Or is the music just right? Important information I need here. Double sound. Are you sure you don't have it open in two tabs, maybe? Show cute rock. Yes, we'll get to Chip. Oh, believe you me, we'll get to Chip. So, the thing I like to do at the start of streams, all streams, is I like to hang out for 5 minutes without actually getting into the thing that I'm doing on stream, because that gives people time to show up. It gives them time, because YouTube with notifications is it'll give you the notification that the stream is live, but it's gonna do it it's gonna take its sweet frickin' time doing it. So we'll just hang out for about 5 minutes, and I'll just say hi to chat. How you doing? How is your day? How is your night? How is your life? How are things? And we all agree, of course, that we believe in chip supremacy, right? Chip supremacy for this entire game, and Chip needs buffs. He needs more keywords, and he needs a last breath effect where if you kill him, you take 10 damage to your nexus. These are my demands of the balance team on Legends of Runeterra. Oh, greetings from our fellow Daneskind. Oh, yeah, hi, sir. But I'm good. First time I catch a stream and I'm greeted by the best theme in the game off to a good start. Ja, selvfølgelig er det Broms theme, vi starter med. Skæmmende. I see chip supremacy in the chat. Yes, good. Very good. Is Chip Leblanc? Oh, yes, everyone is Leblanc. So, the last time there was an expansion, I waited until the end of the expansion, when they had done, they do the region expansion and then they do 2 mini expansions afterwards, right? I waited until the end of that, but this time around, I wanted to get into it a little bit sooner, because this time around, I want to talk about not just, usually we only talk about the units. Usually we only talk about champions and followers on these streams. But this time around, actually, I want to talk about the spells as well. And I want to talk about, this is because this is something people have been asking about. I want to talk about the lore as well. I want to talk about, the flavor text on the cards also. Bring that into it as well. Because people have been asking for it. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at some spells, we're going to look at some flavor text, we're going to talk a little bit about lore as it relates to Legends of Runeterra, and so this is probably a little bit more thing. We'll also look at some interactions. I've got the interactions from Skin Spotlights, who is a hero for putting those things together, an absolute legend. You should all be subscribed to his channel and watch all his videos. I've got those queued up, so as we get to Malphite, as we get to Talia, as we get to the various champions, I'm going to bring up their interactions when I think there's something interesting to talk about, because the Irelia has some that I want to talk about, especially. So let's get to that. Anyway, more super chats. Oh god, Malphite is such a good dad in Legends of Runeterra. He's so good! He's so lovely. I love Malphite so much. I'm building Malphite decks, I tell you that. The Harbo går helt fint, skal bestemt ikke klage over andet end vejret. Er vejret også nederen hos jer? Ja, fair nok. Det fucking regnede hele dagen. Det regner sol, og mit vindue vender mod solen, så det er helt vildt varmt, og så åbner jeg vinduet, så begynder det at regne, så kan man vand ind i mit vindue. Lort. Anyway. Oh, Soulstep, I'm here to do work for you in chat. Have some of my money, because that's how employment works. You make me feel bad, dude! But thank you very much for your help, as always. Right, so we are almost 5 minutes past the hour, which means people have probably had time to realize that the stream is happening, which means that we can actually get started on the thing. And I have been smart, and I have a list of the new cards that are coming in this particular expansion, and we might as well just start from the beginning, because the first most obvious is the cheapest champion in this particular set, which is Zillion. So, Zillion is sort of an interesting character in a League of Legends context, because he's very old. Also as a person, he's very old, but he's very old as a champion. He's been in the game since frickin' forever, and he has never, ever received he's received a texture update. Like, I believe they updated his textures a couple of times. That's it. They've never done jack shit else with him ever. He doesn't have any lore. Like, they retconned him with a little bit of lore relatively recently, but he has no stories. He has no, like, connections to any other champions, really. He's always sort of existed in his own little bubble, which is something that they've then worked into his lore now, because now the whole point of his lore is he lives in a time bubble, basically, like this time temple looking place, whatever the hell this is, where he's just hanging out with Icathian mages who have survived, or Icathian, as we have learned it's supposed to be pronounced in the interactions. Icathian mages who are trying to research how to make the void not, like, eat everything. So they've sort of worked it into his lore that he's completely isolated from everyone and nobody has any connection with him. Anyway, this is probably the most lore, is the point I'm trying to get at. This is the most lore Zillion has received in a long, long time, is what I'm trying to get at here. So, over many years, Zillion established a network of promising young mages from different times, all of whom were capable of seeing out his life's work should the unthinkable happen. Although a kind and encouraging mentor, deep sorrow creased his brow when he sought solitude, and there was weariness in his eyes that only someone who has lived multiple lifetimes could hope to comprehend. Which, yeah, pretty much just, they've established new status quo for him, something that kind of works with his lore, they've given him a small design update as well. Like, he does not look like this in-game, like, at all. They've given him some, like, Shurima-ish Icathian robes, I suppose, like, with a lot of Shuriman disc designs rather than the clocks that he's constantly running around with, and sort of just updated him to look a little nicer, which is cool. It's nice to see Zillion get some love, because, my god, has he needed it. I don't expect he's going to be on the table for a visual and gameplay update for a long time. But hey, it's something. Anyway, let's look at the artwork. And if you've been to these streams before, there might be something that you're already looking for right now, which is a frame, which is something that the art designers of this card game are very fond of using, is to have frames within the frame of the card to create a space for the character to occupy. And it is here. It's a little bit subtle, but basically this big glowy disc thing behind him is his frame within the frame. It creates a background for him to stand out against. It separates him from the rest of the space a little bit, and it gives him a place of prominence. It gives him a place to stand out from. And something else is also happening is look at the lighting on Zillion. Like, the other characters are, like, not in darkness or anything, but if you look at the lady back here, like, she has some highlights on her, but none of them are anywhere near as bright and, like, direct sunlight looking as Zillion's are. Even Kahiri, who's hanging out up here floating around messing with a sun disk, or a time disk or whatever, who has some light on him, is not lit up anywhere near as brightly. And that's something that, like, you'll see in splash arts over and over and over again, is the character that you're supposed to look at is literally highlighted. Like, they just literally just put light on them so you can see them. They also tend to be more saturated in their colors. They also tend to have a broader color range in terms of the values of their colors. Like, they tend to have, like, deeper shadows and brighter highlights, so there's a greater contrast between what they're looking at. And all of that is in play with Zillion, and we're going to see that many, many times over the course of looking at these cards. It's just use a bunch of light and highlight to highlight the character, give them more vibrant colors, give them a brighter, more dynamic color range, and then there is management of details. And this is something that's a little bit subtle and can be kind of hard to see. But if you download the art of the cards and you take a look at, like, the level of detail that is put on main characters, like the characters who are important to the story of the card, or the central characters of the card, compared to the level of actual detail that's put on stuff like background characters, or even background features, because Zillion here in the middle, and he's a good example of this, hella rendering. Like, you can see the individual strands of his beard. He's got, like, furrows and creases on his forehead. He's got wrinkles. He's got bony old man hands. He's got, like, all his creases and crinkles in his clothing. All this just hella density of detail on him. But if you zoom in on the researchers in the background, most of them will be much more created from like flat color surfaces. You can see it especially on the robes of the dudes here in the background. It's like there's no detail on any of it. It's just a flat color surface for the robe there, and like maybe a little bit of highlight, maybe a little bit of shadow if we're being generous, but flat colors a lot more. And that, like, again, that's about leading the eye of the beholder. Like, when you put a lot of detail, when you put a lot of rendering on something, that also attracts the attention of the viewer to the thing that you want them to look at. Why does he have those coins? That's a good question. There's no answer to that in the lore that I have seen so far. But I think it's just as a talisman, as a kind of, like, instead of having a wizard wand or whatever, he has these magic coins that do time magic or something. And so here we have Zillion in full spellcaster mode. And again, we see some of the same tricks repeated. Like, frame within the frame, well, we have this circular portal time contraption, whatever the hell this thing is, creates a little bit of a frame for Zillion to occupy. He stands out in terms of his colors. He's like the only bright splash of red right here in the middle. There's the contrast, and there's the highlighting. Plus, there's no other characters in the image that you can see. Like, there's a soldier down here. And that all helps him stand out. Zillion, though, does have a slightly different aesthetic to his cards than a lot of the other champion cards, which is interesting. Hair looked better in the other picture. Yeah, but in the other picture, Zillion was also a lot closer. He's a lot bigger in the artwork here. And that's the other thing that comes into, like, choosing when to put a lot of details on things, because if you overload a really distant thing, like the researchers in the background, or a more distant character with detail, they also tend to look muddy. Like, they also tend to look really kind of indistinct and kind of, like, messy, rather than looking clear, and it can mess up, like, it can make your pose and your composition be a lot more confused. So Zillion here is a lot further away from the camera. Like, if you imagine this is like a video game, this is where the camera is. So it makes sense to, like, dial down the detail level a little bit, but still, if you look at him, you can see lots and lots and lots of detail on the character, and then all of the background stuff, like even the rocks and things, relatively sort of downplayed level of detail on things to avoid detail density being spread all over the image and focusing on the areas of interest that most people are going to be looking at most of the time. And so, countless possibilities stretched before and behind him. He saw them all at once, a dizzying array that only he could decipher. With a single gesture, Zillion could unfold entire timelines, but none had yet shown him how to save Icathia. Is Zillion immortal or something? That's interesting because we don't know. We don't know if Zillion is immortal. We know that he's able to manipulate time to such an extent that he can give people more time, he can take time away, so he can probably accelerate aging or maybe stop it, but I don't, like, he's probably gonna die if you kill him, like if you stab him in the chest or something. He's 3,000-ish years old. Yeah, we don't know that, Strix. The trouble is, so... Again, Zillion, he hasn't had any lore updates in a million years, and we don't actually quite... With old League of Legends champions, their canon is really soft. Like, what's canon about them is like, eh. Oftentimes, even Riot doesn't really know what's canon about really old champions that haven't been updated. For example, Shaco. Shaco has no lore. He has no lore. Like, there's a sort of placeholder blurb on the universe about, oh, he was the puppet of a prince that got haunted by a demon or something. But that's like, it doesn't, like, no. Any new thing they make about Shaco is just gonna retcon that shit out of existence like that. Like, it's soft. It's not something that you should count on sticking around or being very important ever, because it's just a placeholder that Riot has plopped there because there needs to be something. You can't just have nothing, so we'll just put something there, and then we'll come back to it later once we figured out what the fuck to do with him. And Zillion is in kind of the same position, or he was until this update with Legends of Runeterra, where... like, his lore was sort of really, yeah, he's a magic, lives in the tower, time magic, like, where it was all kind of vague and easy to retcon, and now they've sort of solidified it into, okay, he actually has, like, a time research academy thing going on, and he's, like, bringing in people from different timelines, and he has, like, a concept, and he's tied into the history of Icathia, and they sort of tried to make him more real and tie him into the ongoing Void storyline more. But up until this point, like, his canon was pretty soft, and they've retconned out a lot of things. Like, for example, we don't know if he's 3,000 years old. Icathia fell... Well, actually, shit, maybe he is 3,000 years old, because I can't actually remember when Icathia fell. I should rewatch the Necrit timeline video at some point. But it's like a century or two. No, not a century. Maybe 1 or 2,000 years. Who knows? But the question is, like, how much of that time has he experienced? Is the question. Because, like, did Zillion freeze his tower in time the moment Icathia fell, and then he's just been stuck there, and he's just bringing in people from different timelines, but for him it's only been 10 years. Maybe for him it's only been 10, 15, 20 years, but he's just skipping forward in time to enter the present day of League. We don't know. We don't know is the point. We don't know. But what we're told about the story here is that he can't find a timeline where Icathia doesn't fall. Like, it's just, no, Icathia's gonna fall. It's a fixed point in time, to use a Doctor Who metaphor. And he's, like, researching some way or another to make it happen. As it says here, we cannot stop the inevitable, but we can postpone it, Zillion. Oh, there's a super chat. He's ageless, not immortal. Yeah, I would say that's probably more correct. So, I haven't talked about spells on these streams before, mostly because, like, a lot of the spell cards are like, oh, here's a shield, and there's some swords lying there, and that's the plunder spell for Freljord. But some of them are actually a little bit fun, and there are some compositional things to talk about, because, again, as we talked about with Zillion's splash art, here's a frame. He's framed by the crystal, which has this very, very bright background, so Zillion shows up as a dark shadow, essentially, against this dark background. He also has the 3 hourglasses, all of which are creating, like, a directionality. They're sort of pointing at him, basically, like they're essentially little arrows pointing straight at Zillion. And then there's the cross-section of the crystal itself, which creates, like, there's a line here, like from here to here, and there's a line from here to here, and he's right in the middle of that. And then there's the circular, spinny things that obviously are revolving around him as a center point. All of that sort of leaning back to the figure of Zillion. So that compositional element is in some of the spells as well, where they compose around a central thing in the image, which I quite like. Plus, like I feel like early spells in Legends of Runeterra, a lot of them just weren't interesting to look at because they were just like, oh, here's the magic potion bottle. But some of the newer ones tell a little bit more of a story, because this is Zillion actually doing his time magic stuff. And then we have the Time Bomb, which, by the way, I want this spell effect in League of Legends proper. Like, I want to see that shit happen instead of whatever it is he does with his thing and thing. Right now. Oh, super chat. Why is his hair not blue anymore? Because blue hair is very silly and cartoony, basically. Like, they updated Zillion to look a little bit less like a cartoon character like he did in old League of Legends, so they made his hair white, because it's also supposed to communicate that he's old, which blue hair kind of doesn't, but white hair does. So, anyway, there was a super chat. Any chance of you building a better Shaco video? Maybe. I'm doing building a better video right now. We're working on the artwork, and that video should come out in the start of June, I think? Yeah, June. It's not something people have been asking for. It's just one I wanted to do, well, for 2 reasons, but you'll see once the video comes out. Anyway, composition. So here's something interesting, because the central character of this image isn't a thing, and it isn't a character, right? Like, this little robot guy, this little timekeeper chrono robot, whatever the hell, or little, he's actually kind of big, I think. He's actually fucking huge, actually. But this robot here, not the central character of the image. The central character of the image is the big time kaboom in the middle, where they are apparently destroying void tentacles with time magic, is the way that it looks. So again, the same principles kind of apply. We have a bright central spot to highlight where the attention is supposed to be drawn. All of the tentacles are reaching towards this explosion in the middle. They're not reaching towards the character, the robot. They're reaching towards the explosion. All the bright light is here, like everywhere else in the image that you look. Everything is more dull. Everything is less colorful. And so that's how the artists draw your attention to the explosion as the central character of the image. And then the secondary character of the image is this clock. I think it's the Tower Guardian, if I'm not mistaken, actually. Isn't he like a 8 cost? If I'm not much mistaken, is it the clock hand? No, it's not. Okay, it's just one of the little timekeeper creatures. It's some kind of timekeeper golem thing, whatever he is. He's the secondary character. Like, he's kind of there to have, I think, just to have a character there and to explain how they delivered, I guess, the time bomb. I'm not really sure why they elected to have the character there, except maybe to create a visual connection with the rest of Zillion's cards. Like, in the sense of, oh, okay, clearly, so they sent this thing there to deliver a time bomb to blow up the tentacles, something along those lines. Plus, he looks cool. Like, he's just a cool character. He's a sundial. Like, I really like the little clocklings and their character designs. Like, they've had these little dials, and they're sort of composed of like, little shards of things that just kind of float around. It's very cool. He might be there for scale. Well, yeah, I thought so too, but the trouble is he doesn't do a lot for scale here because, well, okay, so he's standing on a rooftop, right? So this is a house, and this right here, I think, is a chimney. So he's fucking huge. Like, this thing is, like, mecha-sized. And then, by extension, obviously, these tentacles must be, like, the sizes of multiple buildings. Like, they must be absolutely fucking enormous. But the problem is that the composition kind of doesn't serve that, because the only other buildings we have to sort of relate the size of the rest of them to are these background buildings way back here, distorted by the perspective. So that kind of doesn't... I feel like if that was the intention, it doesn't work. We would need a human for scale. Like, if we had a human mage like Kahiri standing down here, that would do a much better job of delivering the scale, I think. Right, okay, I should look at chat. Like, when I'm just in talking mode and I'm just blabbering on, I keep forgetting to look at chat. He's asserting dominance. Did Zillion make the golems? As far as I can tell, the golems are Icathian constructs. Like, they're things that he's taken with him from Icathia. I don't think he necessarily made all of them himself, but they were sort of constructed in the time of Icathia when he was doing his thing. Oh yeah, by the way, something someone pointed out to me, which I had actually kind of missed, is Zillion's, like, his big hair and his big beard creates an hourglass shape on his head. Like, it's like his head is this little narrow point in the middle, and then the hair, especially in his base model, is like the top of the hourglass, and then the bottom of the hourglass is the beard, which is a clever little idea. Any chippers in the chat? Everyone here is a chipper. If they're not a chipper, they get banned. Ah, water. Whee. Hourglass body? Nah, give me hourglass face. Hell yeah. That's better character design. Is he the master for the others or more like a leader of people from Icathia? He's the master. Like, it's very explicitly he has, like, an academy and he's, like, the lead professor, is what they're doing with him. So he's more like Dumbledore, basically. Well, I mean, fuck J.K. Rowling, but he's like a Dumbledore sort of character to them. He's basically reaching out across time to try and find really smart mages who might be smarter than him and teach them everything he knows and then try and find a way to save Icathia from the void. That's sort of his story. Is there a reason for Malphite being Targon, Lulu being Ionia, and Teemo being Piltover? Yeah, I mean, gameplay. Basically, like, Theodore, that's basically the reason. Malphite is technically associated with Ishtal, at least on the universe page, because he came from an Ishtali floating fortress that was made to fight the Void way back when. I have a short about it on my shorts channel if you want a recap of his lore. So he's technically associated with Ishtal, but Ishtal isn't coming as a region to Legends of Runeterra, because Ishtal has no champions. Like, they have Kiana, they have Malphite. I think technically they've been given Rengar and Nidalee and Nico, so they're up to 5 or 6 champions at this point. But, like, they don't have... Like, they only really have Kiana. Only Kiana was made for Ishtal, and Ishtal hasn't been developed enough as a region yet. So, Ishtal might be the last region that gets added to Legends of Runeterra, if anything. But Malphite is just Targon because they wanted to put him somewhere, I think. Like, he just like, oh, we want to do some landmark stuff in Targon, so here's Malphite. And then we can do some earth elementals around Targon as well, or whatever. And Malphite technically, like, he goes everywhere. Like, he's not really stuck in any one region. He just travels underground and goes to places and eats the void where he finds it, or just crushes it, or something. Yeah, most Ishtal champions were retconned. You ramble too much, way to plant egg. Yes, I do. Welcome to the stream. We've got I should make a t-shirt where it says I ramble too much. It's my brand. Hello. Hi. And it's also because anytime I do a stream, I look over and I see that there's 1,000 fucking people looking at me, and so I get a little bit of stage fright. You know, I get a little nervous, and so I get a little bit nervous, I become a motor mouth. It's the same thing every time I went to an exam at university. I was just never shut the fuck up. So that's why I'm rambling. I become terrified of the silence. Anyway, they could make Ivern and Nar into Ishtal. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they could. Let's move on to Irelia, and let's start with I'm just gonna kill the music for a second to make this easier on me. And let's start with something interesting about Irelia. Let's see if I can find. Where are you, Irelia? You are a champion. I need your interactions. Yeah, there she is. It's interactions for Irelia, which are very interesting. She has some with Asir. It's very fun. And then we go. Haha.
Shurima's legacy will endure.
Yeah. I'm not interested in you, Asir. Shut up.
Always remember those who came before us. My heart races. What if I falter? If you fall, I will always catch you.
Our enemies approach. My hands are shaking.
Then hold on to mine. We'll face them together. I wish I could give you silks, but I must give you steel.
Stay by my side. I cannot ask for more. What terrors must we face out here?
Whatever they are, we face them together, Little Blossom.
They seem like good friends, don't they? It's so nice to see gals being pals. Just girls being bros. Just so nice to see that.
Into formation!
I'd follow you to the black heart of Noxus itself.
See? Just friends.
Always the Elder's favorite student.
And you were mine.
Yeah, they're just good friends.
Together again someday.
How could we have known it would be like this?
Just friends.
So
Just friends. Just buddies, just pals, just completely heterosexual straight friends who are buddies with each other. Just blah. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because that's lovely. It's nice to see that Irelia is getting some like characters that she can interact with who aren't like Karma or whatever. It's very sapphic, and they're definitely not just friends. In case you weren't picking up on what was being put down there, yeah, there's more than friendship there. Maybe it's a very super ultra close friendship, but maybe it's just they kiss each other a lot and I don't know. Do gay stuff. Just saying. Anyway, so that's cool. I quite enjoyed that. But let's turn to Irelia's. There's not much to say about the flavors. Like, once we studied Ardent Beauty, our hearts soared. When they broke our walls and spilled our blood, we fell back down to earth. Which is basically Irelia's story is like, oh, the Noxians came and attacked Ionia, and now we have to be military Ionians, and that's weird and different because we used to be pacifist Ionians, and like, that's kind of the whole... It's basically all of Ionia revolves around this. Like, all of Ionia is about... Once upon a time, the nations lived in harmony, and everything changed when the Noxus nation attacked, and then, like, that's sort of... Ionia is all about dealing with the trauma of the war, and dealing with, like, trying to overcome the changes that have been wrought to Ionian culture by the Noxian attack, and you see that everywhere. Like, the Kinku order was shattered because Zed was like, no, we're gonna go fucking fight these people, and Shen was like, no, I am the Eye of Balance, and that means I sit on my ass and do nothing. Like, so that whole story was kicked off by the Noxian invasion. Then we have Zaya and Rakan, who were radicalized because of the Noxian invasion. They're like, fuck these humans, fuck these guys, they're assholes. We're taking back the country for the Vestaya. So they're from that, like, then there's Karma and Irelia, who have a conflict over what to do about the Noxian invasion. Well, they used to anyway. That used to be kind of the point, but now Karma is like sort of an activist instead of being a pacifist. But there's a whole different retcon that they did recently. And then Set, who's obviously a product of Noxian culture, coming to Ionia. Like, he was child of a Noxian, and he does a very Noxian thing, which is to have, like, fighting pits where he murders people, and makes money from people being murdered. And that's, like, all of Ionia revolves around that. And Irelia is sort of the poster child for it, because she is, like, she's all this art and grace, and she's, like, a dancer with these mystical arts and stuff, who uses those mystical arts to, like, cut people's fucking heads off in battle, which is what she's doing here. So, again, am I recording at low quality? No. I am streaming at 8,000, a bitrate of 8,000 kilobytes per second, and I'm recording at a pretty high quality. Anyway, oh, there's some super chats I missed. Writers railing against their imposed limitations. Yeah, I mean, basically, like Riot's writers for a long time have basically just we'll get like queer representation in where like any way we can. They can't do it explicitly, so they do it implicitly, like everywhere that they can do it. So them's the breaks with corporate art. Augusta Martinez loves your content, man. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. And at this point, the LOR designers are just giving the League of Legends ones a smug. What are you going to do about all our queer representation look? Well, no, because they're the same people. Like a lot of the same people work on Legends of Runeterra as work on League of Legends when it comes to lore. They have a lot of coordination. I know from the central writing department, like the central narrative department at Riot coordinates across departments for them. So they're not different teams. Irelia can cut off my foreskin with her blades. Okay, I'm sorry, but like not to kink shame, but I'm gonna have to delete that. Anyway, so her splash art. Look for the frame, right? Like we've talked about that already. Look for the frame. The frame is these buildings in the background. They separate Irelia from the fray. They raise her above like the chaos of the battlefield. They frame her against the sky, the open sky of Ionia, and separate her out from all the other characters in the image so that she becomes the obvious central character. Then remember what we talked about with highlighting. Irelia is literally highlighted by sunlight. Everyone else is much more in shade and much darker. She has much more vibrant colors. Everyone else is a lot more dull in their coloration. So, like, all of that basic stuff we've talked about already, all of it is at play here. From a storytelling perspective also, like I said, Irelia is literally raised above the battlefield. Like, she literally exists on a higher level than everyone else here, which again is about communicating the power that she has as a fighter, as a champion. Like, she's just way more powerful than literally anyone else in this image. She's like rending down Noxians left and right. She's just kicking ass everywhere she goes. She's above them because she's literally above them in the image. It makes her powerful. Is it intentional that her blades form a heart? No, I don't think so. These are just two swooping circles. Ah, god damn it. The sun is shining in my eye. Just a sec, I need to pull some blinds. There we go. Hi. The sun comes straight through my window and into my face at this hour, so... Right then. Chat, are you gonna rant about the armor? Well, I have done my ranting about Irelia's armor, I think, in my shorts and my other videos. It's a very... I don't like Irelia's armor design. Specifically, I don't like it because of the spikes. Like, you see how she has all these spikes that point inwards towards her body, towards her sternum? That, to me, like, visually, that just looks like it makes it harder for her to bend and sway and, like, twist her body, which is what she needs to do as a dancer, and that's, like, I think this armor design is so silly. Because it would have been so easy to make swooping curves that go outward, like, that give her physical freedom, rather than things like this thing that looks like a corset that's, like, ensnaring her and holding her so that she can't be flexible. It looks like, it's just... Irelia's armor is weird to me. But something someone brought up in the chat is that in both of Irelia's card arts, she kind of looks a little stiff. And I tend to agree with that. Like, this is like, it's a nice dynamic pose, but it doesn't look like, to me, like she's dancing here. It just looks like she's jumping or something. Like, it just looks like she's leapt from here and is kind of flying through the air. It doesn't look like a dance move. And it's kind of the same thing in her leveled up splash art, which there's another thing there I want to talk about also. It doesn't look like, to me, like she's dancing. These don't look like dance moves to me. Not even like special kung fu magic, like combat dance arts. They don't really look like that. Which is a problem with Irelia generally, is like, even when she shows up in like, what was it, the Warriors trailer, or was it the, it was one of the animated trailers for the season. It wasn't Warriors, it was, fuck, what's it called? The one where Kennen shows up at the end where she's fighting Zion. Anyway, that one. She looks so stiff in that one as well. Like, her animation was just so stiff. And it's weird. Like, there's something about the way that the art department is mandating that Irelia be depicted, where she's just, like, never... The only time I remember seeing her... Awaken, yes, Awaken. The only time I remember seeing Irelia really do, like, dance moves and looking really smooth and really agile was the announcement trailer for this expansion. Like, where the one that was done by Sun Creature Studio, the 2D animated one. Like, there, she gets to do some really cool, badass, like, combat dance moves that look really fucking sweet. But that's the first time I've ever seen her be, like, look really flexible. And that's kind of the thing I would look for. Like, if I was the editor who was giving feedback on these splashes, I would say, like, hey, could we maybe give her some more contorted poses, like something that looks more deliberate, something that looks more like an elaborate combat dance pose kind of thing, rather than these sort of kind of stiff, extended poses that just kind of look like she's standing weirdly. So I don't know. This is my thing. Anyway... Yeah, one thing I want to compliment, one thing I've always really liked about Legends of Runeterra is that when you look at the faces of background characters, you actually get a lot of variety. Like, you actually get, like, you get different kinds of noses, you get, like, people with 5 o'clock shadow, you get, like, different kinds of eyes, and anywhere you look in the background of cards, you usually find really nice character designs hiding there, that I really appreciate. Now, the thing that's cool as fuck about Irelia's level 2 splash art is the way that they're using the blades, right? So, the stuff we talked about already. Framing. The framing here is obvious. It's the spiral of blades that she's carrying with her. Absolutely ripping through these motherfuckers. Like, that shit looks cool as hell. Like, the extreme distortion of the perspective, that looks cool as hell. That's a really cool compositional idea. I really, really like it, and it's a great way to show Irelia at the height of her powers, like, which is the idea of the level up art, this is when the characters are at their most powerful. Something that's not, like, the danger of these really extreme perspectives is that drawing a character in, like, an extreme distortion like this, like, coming towards the camera like that, is really fucking hard. Like, this professional artists fuck this up all the time because it's a really hard thing to do, and I think there's some weirdness going on with Irelia's proportions here. Like, there's some weirdness going on with, like, the size of her head relative to the size of her torso, because her head is the size of her torso here, but she's not leaning far enough forward for me to feel like that size distortion is justified. Like, there's something about she looks too upright, where she should be looking like she's leaning more forwards, like she's leaning more into the camera, like more of her torso should be framed downwards. So we get, like, a top-down view of her chest as she's, like, dashing forwards in the blade surge. Because that's what this is the blade surge, I think. Or her ultimate or whatever. Like, there's something about the distortion where the distortion that's implied by the spiral of knives just doesn't match the distortion that we see on the actual character. And it's like, it just looks a little uncanny. Like, it's not wrong, per se, it's just, there's, like, that 10% mismatch that makes me go, oh, hey, Like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me. Which is a pity, because, like, it's, again, I fucking love the blade spiral. Like, as a framing device, that shit is killer. That is killer. So I like that. Anyway, we have the framing, we have the lighting. Again, like, Irelia is the brightest and most saturated thing in the image. Literally everyone else is basically in grayscale. And we have the lighting from, like, the sun behind her doing the work of highlighting her in the frame. But you can also see we have all the bright red and orange and pinks of a sunset, sort of creating a color space here. And again, we have intensity of detail. Like, Irelia is highly, highly detailed. You can see individual hair strands. Characters in the backgrounds, they're just more like flat blobs of color, mostly with minimal details on them, to keep them from stealing attention from the center of the action. Right then, looking at chat again, I'm gonna try... Just get to Chip already, please breathe. Oh, I breathe for him. We'll get to Chip, but we'll have to go through the champions first, I'm afraid. Let's see. Is this one interesting? Nah, because again, Irelia should be dancing here, shouldn't she? Like, she should be dancing. This is a spell that, like, is a blade dance spell about, like, getting a character to attack with the blades. So why is she just standing there doing fuck all? She should be dancing. She should be doing a dance move, man. Let's see. Blade search. Yeah, I mean, this is basically, right, because this is the pose that she's supposed to be making here, right? Like, this is the forward dash that she does when she uses her blade surge. So, I don't know. Anyway, the blade itself also includes Irelia in its artwork. And I like this pose more. Like, this pose looks a lot more like a dancer pose. Like, this looks more like she's doing some kind of complicated thing where, like, you've caught her in the middle of a movement. I think they could do more with the legs, but, like, this one looks more like that. And again, there's a little bit of framing going on where the mountains are sort of separating Irelia from the battlefield again. Like, she's again separated from the scrum, from the general fight of the battlefield, and sort of isolated against the clouds. She's more highlighted, she's more saturated, she has more details on her. And then the actual primary character of the image is the blade, which is the thing most forward in frame. It's the thing that's brightest in the image, not by much. It's like, Irelia is like a close secondary character, but it's like, it's just doing the job of being the important thing in the image. Not much else to say there. Oh, super chat. She's just standing there, menacingly. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Right. We get to Malphite. We'll get to Chip in a second, don't you worry. But let me look at chat for a second. Hello, chat. If you have any questions, let me know. Because when I finish talking about a card, I'm going to try and look at chat. So I can talk to you guys and, like, maybe respond to you so that this is an interesting stream and not just a video that I'm performing live. How am I doing? I'm out of breath and I need water. Thanks for the reminder. Is the building a better video going to be Kai'Sa? Nope. I'm saving Kai'Sa for a special occasion. We're not doing Kai'Sa yet. When do we see Chip? Let's see. We have Malphite. Then I want to do... There's the Adaptatron. And then there's Chip. We'll get to Chip in, like, 2.5 cards. Do you think Singed will appear soon, with the attention to Ionia and Riven being added? I don't know. Singed would be a Son champion. So, like, Son hasn't had a champion in a while, so he could show up, but I don't think he's going to be added in this expansion. Or, like, he's not going to be added in the Shurima set. I don't think. Chip the new Cythria. No, he's not. I want to see your take on Jhin, not gonna lie. Well, I've cut a couple of videos on my channel, and I've got one over on the Shorts channel. I like him a lot, in case you're wondering. Are you gonna mention that Malphite got hit by a star? Well, I mean, yeah, sort of. We'll get to it, I guess, but if it's relevant. The next Piltover and Son champ is Echo. Are we sure? Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Wasn't there like a leak of voice lines for Echo or something? Kahiri is the new Cythria. Yeah, he's more like the new Cythria, like, in terms of being a character who has a story. I mean, design a better Jhin. Oh, no. Couldn't do that. Jhin is pretty perfect. He's pretty much as good as he's gonna get. Am I missing super chats here? Hang on. I hope if anyone's donating via Streamlabs, I can't see that right now because I don't have Streamlabs up, but I'm just gonna check. I don't want to miss anything because that would make me feel bad. I don't think I put a Streamlabs link in the description, did I? I think I left that out intentionally. Oh, no, it's there, actually. Shit. Okay. Just need to make sure. There hasn't been anything, right? No, just super chats. Okay, good. I stopped using Streamlabs because I could never... Like, difficult to coordinate. There was someone who asked about the Darkin. Yes, Swagmaster, lovely name. Do you think the Darkin, when they're going to be added, they're going to be the same region? I would have to imagine so. Like, I have to think Varus would absolutely be Ionia, because, like, Valmar and Kaya are Ionia, and Varus is operating in Ionia. It would be weird if then... I mean, Rast would have to be attached to Kain, so he'd have to be Ionia as well. Aatrox, I don't know. Like, where would he be? I would imagine they would attach him... Like, they could attach him either to Targon, because he's kind of associated with Pantheon, or they could attach him to the Freljord if they wanted to. Yeah. And outside of that, we don't have any more Darkin, so... Oh, Brandon Strickland. Just wanted to say you're one of my favorite YouTubers. You may be interested in both Legends, Runeterra, and character design in general. Thank you kindly. Oh, well, thank you kindly for your super chat, and thanks for watching. Do you think that Camavor will be added to the Runeterra map? Not in this season. Oh, Theodore says, isn't Aatrox Shurima? No, all Darkin are Shurima. All Darkin are former Ascended who were corrupted by blood magic and trauma from fighting the Void, and then they turned into Darkin over, like, thousands of years of corruption. So they're all Shurima, technically, but that's not where they are now. What's my take on the placement of the region icons on the cards? I think it's fine. Like, I look at the subreddit sometimes and people, like, complaining about, like, oh, place the region thing. Like, people do all these redesigns, and, like, I think it's fine. Like, it's fine. To me, it's like, I don't think the cards really need, like, a legibility update that badly. So, Is Aatrox in the Freljord? He was? Maybe? Like, it's unclear, because, like, Tryndamere still has lore that implies that he was given this rage power that he has by Aatrox coming to the Freljord and fucking up his tribe. But that lore is so vague that they could just retcon it and say, no, it was a shaman, it was the Volibear, it was, like, whatever. He used to be connected very explicitly to Tryndamere. He isn't necessarily anymore. There's sort of, like, I don't know, Tryndamere hasn't had a lore update in forever either, so his lore is soft. How does Riven make any sense being in Noxus when she's in Ionia? Well, Riven is in Noxus right now. She's been captured. I think Irelia is stiff because it's inspired by Tai Chi waterbending, so it's supposed to be grounded, calculated. What do you think? I don't know. I've seen Tai Chi being performed, and it doesn't, like, it's like, when I say Irelia stiff, what I mean is, when you look at her pose here, right? She's just upright. Like, it's just straight up and down. And when you do, like, an extreme pose, like, when you do, like, a movement pose, when a character is, like, at the peak of emotion, they're usually not balanced. Like, usually you go from balance to imbalance and then back to balance with some kind of emotion. Like all motion. That's just a basic animation principle. And for me, it's like, I would like to see Irelia in more extreme poses. Like, I would like to see her at the extremes of her dance moves, rather than in these grounded central, like, constantly, like, in this grounded state. Because that's what makes her dance interesting, is like, the extreme moves, which is what we saw in the animated trailer for the season, is we got to see those extreme dance moves, and it ruled. Anyway, let's actually move on to Malphite so we can get to Chip. Like, I know people are impatient. Irelia isn't balanced, TV Sky. Yeah, better nerf Irelia. So, Malphite. And both of his splash arts, we get to talk about one of my favorite things when it comes to splash art like this, which is scale. So you know about banana for scale, right? Well, when it comes to paintings, and it comes to the history of art, we use humans for scale. Wait, that was a big burp. we use humans for scale. And this is something like, this is my little art history connection for you. If you go back and look at, especially Romantic period artwork, like paintings and stuff of the Romantic period, especially nature paintings, like, painters fucking love doing this trick. Like, they love putting in a human character to show you how big everything else is supposed to be relative to it. Because the human brain is programmed to look for faces. It's called pareidolia. It's a pattern recognition, right? We're programmed to look for human shapes. We're programmed to look for human faces. That's why emojis work, and smiley faces. And one thing that a painter can do is we can abuse, like, because the human brain has an instinctual sense of how big is a person, it uses, when it sees an image like this, your brain subconsciously uses the people in the image as a way to sense what the scale of everything else is supposed to be. Take away the humans from this picture, and Malphite doesn't look quite as overpoweringly massive and towering as he's supposed to. Like, it becomes a little bit less overawing, it becomes a little bit less, holy shit, this thing is big, and more like, oh, that's a large thing, I guess? I don't know, it's probably big. So having humans for scale, animals for scale, like relatively recognizable items and objects for scale is like the classic trick to get a character to look big. And we get to talk about more of that stuff in his secondary splash because, there's good stuff going on with it. Anyway, that's how Malphite gets to look so big. The second thing that the splash art does is it makes sure that we are looking at Malphite from a human perspective, right? Like, look at our, like, if you were to imagine where the cameraman is placed in this scene, like the person taking this photo, right? The cameraman is placed on a human eye level. He's placed at the same level as the two Targon climbers, who are the mountain sojourners, I believe. Who aren't part of this set. God damn it. There. It's these two, who are traveling with Tiari. Yoink. We are placed in their perspective, so we're looking up at Malphite from below. Imagine, as a contrast, if we were looking at Malphite from a helicopter that was flying high above him, he would probably still look big, but he wouldn't look big in the same way that he does when you're looking, like when you're standing on a mountaintop and looking at this thing that's bigger than a mountain just kind of rising above the clouds, high above you, so high up above you that there's a haze in front of him. He wouldn't look big in the same way. It wouldn't feel the same way to look up at him. Boys who do, thank you for that super chat, just saying, rock! Because, yeah, rock. Anyway, where was I? Right. So we've talked about two things before, right? Like, we talked about framing, we've talked about highlighting, and we've talked about detail density. And those are all kind of interesting here, because Malphite kind of needs to not be, like, the central... Like, he kind of needs to not be the central thing in the image, in a sense. Like, he needs to not be as close or as detailed as, for example, the rocks or the trees that are in the foreground, because they're a lot closer to us. So being further away, he has relatively less detail density. Like, you can see the crags in the rock, but you can't see the texture on the rock. Like, the same way that there's so much painted texture on the rocks here in the foreground, you kind of can't see that on Malphite as much, but he does have a lot of detail density generally, and what they do is they create this frame, like, that travels right here around the edges, like so. We have this frame of the mountainside that creates this, like, space for Malphite to occupy, where he's framed against the grandeur of the sky. Up there, holy shit, Lumen, thank you. That's a very generous super chat. Bandle City for Region 10, baby. Hi-ya. Also, crazy how you almost say make him naked, but you never thirst over Malphite thinking emoji. I hope for Bandle City. I'm not that hopeful, but I want it. I really want it. Right. So the thing that they do with Malphite, because again, the thing we want here is to communicate scale, specifically. Look at the colors on Malphite. Look how he's kind of washed out. Like, it's kind of like there's a white haze over him. And that's a haze of distance. Like, that's just like, anytime you have something that's really far away on the horizon, it kind of loses color saturation a little bit. So he's not the most color saturated thing in the image. That would probably be the Mountain Sojourner over here. And he's not the most detail heavy, but he is still highlighted with sunlight in a way that neither of the Sojourners really are. But he kind of occupies a central position in the image just by sheer virtue of being fucking massive and occupying this central space in the frame that they've created around him. And like, kudos to the artist, because the sense of scale here is absolutely fantastic, and it's also fantastic in his level 2. Like, the sense of scale that they got with Malphite, like just how fucking big this dude is, absolutely wonderful. I really like it. How the hell does Talia talk to this guy? Like, Talia just chats with him, like, casually. Just let's actually have their interactions. Let me bring those up for you. Let's have their interactions, because they're adorable, and I love them. They're a family, and they're wonderful and beautiful.
The rock mover, the mini-mage, the surf.
Malphite, you can just call me Talia.
The girl always beats me. I must learn her powers.
Perhaps you should choose scissors, Malphite. There's my favorite giant talking rock mountain.
Where is he? I will break him. There is Malphite. I am Malphite.
There wouldn't be room for more than one.
My feet are far away because I am tall.
I love that line so much. My feet are far away because I am tall. Such a good line. He's so cute.
You're also very, very sweet. Rock solid.
Like mountain, like hill.
Snow on my feet, wind on my head.
I hope you never change. I was thinking the same thing, Blue. Blue is like me, except smaller and also bluer. They cut shapes in the stone for their little feet.
I like that line too. They cut shapes in the stone for their little feet. It sounds like he thinks it's cute. Like, oh, the humans cut shapes in the stone for their little feet.
This is where they stop and go, oh, look at that view. I think I know that guy. There goes Cliff. You know, I was hit by a star once. Sometimes the sky waves, and my back tingles. Ah, the place where they fall. Must have strong hands there. Spike is not a morning person. Uh-oh, Spike does not look happy. I'm not in a hurry either.
I love Malphite so much. He's so good. And he sings, like, when you idle with him, he sings, "She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes." Which is not a DMCA skin spotlights, it's in the public domain. Malphite is good. I love Malphite. Malphite is awesome. Yes. Was there a super chat that I missed? Where is your head, rock thing? Where is the neck I shall sever? Malphite hurt Aatrox and made himself a neck. Yeah, this is true. I feel the image is slanted, but gravity says no. No, you're right. If you look at where gravity is, actually. Look at the trees in the background here. Look how they're pointed. We are working with what's called a Dutch angle. Well, in film, it's called a Dutch angle, which is you take the camera and you tilt it a little bit. And what that does is two things. First of all, when you have like a horizontal image like this, like artwork that's horizontal like that, it gives you a little bit of extra space to work with because the diagonal is longer than the, you know. But what it also does, from a perspective of feeling in an image, is that it creates a sense of unsteadiness. Like, it creates a sense of being off balance, of being off center a little bit. And that's something that these cards often work with in order to create a sense of being overwhelmed, a sense of being out of control. And that makes sense, again, with Malphite, because, like, you're looking up and you're seeing this walking mountain just going past, and you can feel the tremors in the earth as he walks, and he's like, whoa, you're off balance here, because this thing is overwhelming. Malphite is huge, so you're supposed to be a little off balance. You're supposed to be overawed by him. By contrast, something like, we can actually look at that right now. If I can get this to go away, thank you. By contrast, take a look at LeBlanc's level 1. Here, everything is like this complete flatness. And that's because this image isn't really about being off balance or off center. This image is about Leblanc being in control. She's in control of this meeting. She operates everything that's happening. And the reason that she does that, of course, is because everyone at the meeting is Leblanc, apparently. Like, it's like, it's about Leblanc having control and having complete, like, confidence of what's happening. So that's, like, the Dutch angle. I'm gonna call it that. It's not really called that in painting, but I'm just gonna use that term because it's useful. That's why the tilt. Anyway, there's another... Holy shit! Boys who do, thank you! That's very, very generous of you. Is Chip a rock or a pebble? He would be a rock, because pebbles are, like, very small. But, like, pebbles are made of rock, but not all rocks are pebbles, right? Chip is Leblanc. I am Leblanc. Yes, everyone is Leblanc. Absolutely everyone is Leblanc. Sorry, my pets were fighting. What deck am I more excited to play? I mean, I'm really... Like, Malphite looks like a terrible card, kind of. Like the whole thing about, like, landmarks. You have to summon 12 mana worth of landmarks. It's kind of like... So you kind of have to play him with Talia, because you can use the doubling on Talia to get to that 12 mana breaking point faster. But then he's also, like, a 7 mana. So, like, you have to have a board that's able to sustain you until you get to 7 mana, so you can actually, like... So you can actually play him and use the Unstoppable Force spell, and you kind of... If you're up against Ionia, you're just fucked, because it's just gonna... Oh, deny. It's just deny, 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 and, like, Whimsify, or stop your skill, stop your spell, stop your everything. Because Ionia can just fuck you. And, like, there's other regions as well where they can just, like, kill... Like, Shadow Isles can just kill Malphite, like, they'll just kill him. So... He feels like he's not that viable, but I want to play it. Like, I want... Because I've messed around with it versus AI, with some really terrible, awful decks that I've built. And when you get going, like, when you get to the Malphite, and you put him on the board, and they don't have a way to stop your Unstoppable Force, you just wreck fucking house. Like, you kill everything. But until you can get there, he sucks. So, yeah. Anyway, he's LeBlanc. He's LeBlanc, you're LeBlanc, I'm LeBlanc. Are there any other LeBlancs I should know about? Oh, yes, Mothman. If I'm LeBlanc, and you're LeBlanc, then who's flying the plane? Well, that would be LeBlanc, Lemon Bellflower, no problem. Right. Where the fuck were we? Okay, level 2. Level 2 Malphite. I'm trying to get to Chip as fast as I can here. So, scale, again. He's a big lad, isn't he? Him's a big boy. Him's a large. Him's a very big. And here they're going with a different means of demonstrating scale, which is to create, like, this is kaiju stuff, right? Which is to create a sense of the impact that he has on his environment. So, we have mountains for scale over here. So we're kind of seeing, okay, like, maybe those mountains are far away, but clearly this is kind of large. We have a very low horizon. Like, the horizon line is, like, somewhere down here. So most of what we're seeing is just sky. So he occupies this huge space where he's pretty much just outlined against the sky only because he's just that tall. So that helps. We have, again, the washed out white filter that's sort of laid over everything that's happening. Like, nothing here is really super saturated. There's this sort of haze over everything because, again, very big, very large, very far away. That's what happens to the light as it travels through atmosphere. And then there's the explosion of what Malphite is doing to the ground here, which is throwing up so much, like, rocks and pebbles and, like, boulders and everything and debris, and you have these shock waves just radiating and emanating out from the goddamn thing that just gives you a sense of holy fucking shit, like, this is landing with the force of a bomb. And that's the imagery that's being used here, is like this imagery of, like, debris flying everywhere, this is the imagery of a bomb falling. Like, if you've seen imagery like this, it'll be like Mythbusters blowing up a truck, or, like, it'll be some huge explosion going off or something. That's your visual reference for this, which is why you go, oh, so he's bigger than an explosion that can do, oh, big, large. And then also, as a final little touch, if you look all the way down here, these little bitty, itty bitty tiny little, itty bitty little things right there, them's humans, I think. I think them is supposed to be humans. Little tiny pinpricks of fucking nothing just hanging out at the bottom of the image. So you get the sense that this is big, huge, large guy whomst is doing a large thing. And it's brilliantly put together, frankly. Like, it's, again, kudos to the artists at, this is 6 More Vodka, right? Yeah. For, like, finding a way to represent the scale and power of something like Malphite in a card. Like, boom, large, huge boy, absolutely excellent. I still wish Malphite had a better character design. Like, I wish... And I said this in the short I made about him recently, but, like, I wish Malphite actually looked like a man-made construct, because that's what he is. Malphite is a shard of like, a floating fortress that was man-made, that fell to the earth and then sort of gathered more rock to itself and sort of became this, like, grew to mountain size eventually. But I wish that there was an aspect of evidence of his past as... like, part of a fortress, which is what subjectively did so well with their fan rework of the character. Okay, oh god, more super chats. Jesus. If you're gonna keep brewing out Malphite decks, try putting in 1 or 2 Zillions. Card's insane. Yeah, I mean, Zillion, because he has the landmark with the time bombs. I've been thinking about trying to fit a Zillion in there somehow. Those people are fucked. They're in the splash zone. Yeah, like, everything near Malphite in his level 2 card is dead. Like, probably, like, even if you were standing as far away as the person, like, as this perspective is, you're probably still dead, because, like, those boulders are coming towards you. Good luck outrunning them. So.
And here's plot, the last stop on the chip tour Targon. It's Papa. He's the biggest of the Targon giants and sings a mean song too, let me tell ya. Just don't try and climb him, the spikes tickle him, and you don't want him sneezing when you're halfway up. No, sir.
That's little Chip giving us a tour of Targon. Because Chip is adorable. Chip is good. Chip is wonderful. Let's see. Is this one interesting? No, not so much, because it's just a punch the ground. Is this one interesting? No, not so much, because he's just doing Unstoppable Force. Yeah, so no spell cards interesting there. Okay. Let me just get my filters back on. That was Malphite. Now it's the Adaptatron, and after the Adaptatron, we get to Chip. So, stay patient. And I just like this thing because it's French fries. Like, it's a KFC bot, I guess. And it's like, it's French fries with Heimerdinger mustaches for some reason.
Ah, yes, the Adaptatron 3000. Adaptable, inventive, and quite the looker. If the fella could speak, I'm sure we'd have much to share with each other.
Heimerdinger, who is hanging out in the background over here. It's just like, it's a fucking walking McDonald's French fries thing. I don't know about it, why it's there, but it's like, why did they make it look this way? I don't know. But it kind of seems to me the storytelling here is that Heimerdinger has made all these little French fry bots. And if you look at the background, like, his little French fry bots, they're drilling into all his other turrets and are acting as, like, kind of a control system for them. I think that's the idea here. And that makes sense for the keyword, or for the thing that's in it. If you summon a tech, we share keywords. So if you summon any other tech alongside this thing, it will gain the keywords of any other turrets that Heimerdinger summons, right? So that's sort of the storytelling, I think, here, is that these little things are grabbing, like, they're extracting properties or controlling the other turrets. Like, there's some kind of AI neural link thing going on or whatever. Anyway, framing. See if you can spot it. It's right here. It is the big arch in the background of this warehouse, or wherever the hell it is Heimerdinger is doing this thing. That creates the framing. around the creature. Then there is the color saturation. Look at how, like, look at the red on the turret here, for example. Like, there's some red on its feet and on, like, its joints, but that red is a lot less saturated than the red that is on the Adaptatron. And then the sunlight only directly hits the Adaptatron itself from behind, granted, but it doesn't hit any of the other turrets, so they're not highlighted. And the only other highlighted turret is way back here, tiny in the background, not important. Heimerdinger is also, like, he's got some edge lighting from the back, but he's also not highlighted and not important, but he is the secondary character in the image, followed by the swarm of the little Heimer bots flying around, doing their thing. And I do like the expressiveness of this turret, like, or robot, whatever the hell it is. I do like the expressiveness. I like the little gentle, dainty finger with which it's picking up one of the French fries from its head. I like, it's clearly just dropped this thing on the ground, right? Like, it's got, like, a nice expressiveness to it. It looks very cocky. It looks like it's doing the Heimerdinger swag walk, right? It looks like it's doing that thing that Heimerdinger used to do. Or he can still do. You have a toggle for it. It's like, it's a very charming little robot. Not much else to say about it, though. Which means, now, we get to Chip. Chip, my good boy Chip. And did you know that there is an infinite number of him? There are infinite chips. We can never run out of him. There's just chips. Chip, 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 chip. Or maybe they're just his siblings, you know. But it's my boy Chip. Look at my good boy Chip. There's so many of him. I love all of them. And he's my boy. He's my child. And he's perfect. And this is the best art in the game. And the artist who made it should get all of the money from the game. Just give that to them, to the person who made the Chip art. And yeah, because he's the good boy. He's the goodest boy, and he's the best boy, and he's the only boy. So I like, he's my boy. Good boy Chip. So, same things we've talked about before. Here's an interesting case of framing, by the way, because take a look, like the other chips or the other little rock things in the image, they are all sort of off to one side over here, right? And then Chip is sort of behind, or rather in front of this triangular-ish, sort of triangular, like this vaguely triangular shape of this pile of half circles behind him, which kind of acts as like a frame around him to make him centered in the image. Then there we have the sunlight coming down, obviously, so he's literally highlighted in the image, and his colors are more saturated and more clear than the rest of the little craters in the image, and he has more detail on him than the rest of them do. Not by much, but by just enough. As adorable little boy is the main character of the entire game. He's the main character of the game. He's the best character.
Okay, so hello, I'm Chip, and I'm here to show you Targon. Wow, he's big and tall, and I hope you got good shoes for the walking. Let's go.
He's good. I want to make a deck with like Targon Demacia with like Unyielding Spirit, and then I want to make an immortal Chip, and I just want to buff him. I want to find ways just to buff Chip so that he becomes the biggest thing on the entire battlefield and he can't die. That's what I want to do. Just an immortal Chip deck. If anyone has a deck list for that, send it to me. I want to play it. We believe in chip supremacy over here. I'm gonna use Chip to summon the butcher. Oh, you monster! You monster! You terrible person, you. Why would you do that? He has a special ability where he gets +2/+2 when you summon a landmark. He's the best card in the whole game. Why would you ever lose him? You're just setting yourself up for failure, man. Would that be killing them with chip damage? Yes. Yes, it would, the Harbo. That would be killing them with chip damage. Did Chip and his siblings break off of Malphite, or does the Rock Boy canonically bone? I mean, I think you know how the community is going to answer. Like, I've seen people in like, I made a short about Malphite recently, and there was a lot of thirst for the Rock Boy. There was a lot of thirst for him in the comments. So we can all choose to believe that Malphite has fucked a mountain. Like, he's just sidled up like a nice large rock formation and been like, so you come here often, and then, you know, one thing leads to another, and then there's earthquakes for like 2.5 hours continuously. Like, everyone around the world is, oh god, it's the end of the world! And then, next morning, lots of little chips running around. Just... We can all believe that collectively. But no, I believe canonically the thing is that Chip is a chip off Malphite. Like, he's a little bit of rock that got sheared off of Malphite, and then inherited Malphite's ability to be alive, as such. So he is Malphite's son in that way. As I have just cursed all of you with terrible mental imagery, which is something I like to do. And by the way, Carl Moore, thank you for that generous super chat. That was very kind of you. Never kill Chip, only obliterate. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you must. If you absolutely must. Earthquakes is mountain sex. Yes. You have now been given forbidden knowledge, my friend. Oh, chip interactions. Yes, let's do the chip interactions. Thank you for reminding me. I almost forgot. Let's do the chip interactions because he has them. That would be... Where's Chip? Where's Chip? Where's Chip? Where's Chip? Where's Chip? There he is. Yoink.
Let's put these rocks into motion. I'm Walk. Put me in motion. Papa!
Hello, little pebble.
Papa! Big as a mountain and...
Twice as strong. Good memory, Chip.
Talia! Talia!
Chip, you're the noisiest little rock.
Rock solid.
You're just like your mountain.
Caught between a walk and
a hard place, Chip?
Blue, you're my favorite rock and also color. Blue is like me, except very different in every way. Wow, wow! So many steps! Little steps for little legs! Oh, hiya, Cliff. Hey there, big guy. Whoa, look at that sky! What are the white dots in the sky? Whoa, long way down! Wow, wow, look at that view! Spike's not a morning person. No, no. Hey, Spike! Nice, Spike!
Chip sings the next two... Like, Malphite sings the first lines, like the first stanza of She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes, and then Chip sings the second and the third, like, bars of the song. Which is adorable. Anyway, shut the fuck up, Jarvan. I don't care about you. You suck. Right. Let me look at chat again. Hello, chat. Prismatic Chip. Peepo Shy. Yes, Prismatic Chip. Absolutely Prismatic Chip. 110% Prismatic Chip. Let's do that right now. Prismatic Chip. There we go. The Demacian characters are evil, though. Like, they're bad people. Most of them, anyway. Like, they're not... Anyway, that's a discussion for a different time. I don't want the comments to fill up with that for this one. Let's see... Get the music back on. There we go. Right. There we go. Moving on to the Dancing Droplet. And I really like this creature design. It's ostensibly one of the Ionian spirit creatures, basically. Like, it's one of the little magic beasties that call the place home. I really like the creature design, like that. It's this water droplet that looks like a bird, but its legs are like twigs that it has picked up from like the whatever. And also, it's elusive. It attunes, and when you recall, you can draw one, which is very annoying. What would you say to a show about Bilgewater? I'd say fuck yeah. Like, if, like, Riot has Studio Fortiche working on Arcane right now, so they don't want to announce anything else, but, like, as a next thing, Bilgewater would be an obvious place to set a show. But we're getting a game set there now, so, like, Ruined King. Eventually. It's been delayed a lot by COVID, so who knows when the fuck that's coming out. Adorable water duck. Yeah. So, once again, we are working with what you might call a Dutch angle, which is very obvious because we're looking at water, which always aligns to the plane of gravity. So we are working at a really steep, like a 45-degree twisted angle on this thing, which I think here in this case is just mostly to add some dynamism to the image, which would otherwise, like, because all this thing is doing is just standing in water, right? Like, it's just standing in water. So in order to add some dynamics, in order to make the image exciting to look at, like to make it interesting, we have this extremely twisted angle, and we have this, like this curling tail of water coming off of the creature itself, like forming the bulk of its body. That adds a little bit of adds some motion to the image, adds some dynamics. The same thing with the leaves. Like, I think the leaves are really just there to add like a sense of motion and movement to an image that, if you imagine this same drawing, but like the angle is completely flat, and like the tail of water isn't like swaying and swooping left to right, and there's no leaves falling down, it would just be like a thing standing in a lake, and like nothing happening. So all of this, I think, is really just added to create dynamism in the image, like to make the image look exciting even though the subject isn't. And it works really well, frankly. So again, framing the tree here is being used to create like a background, a framing space for the bird to occupy. It's all red and orange, and the bird itself is green, so there's a nice contrast between the foreground and the background. The bird has a high density of detail, etc., etc., etc. We've already covered all of this. But it's a cool little card. I quite like it. Sorry, Dragon Chow, you were cute for like 10 minutes, but now we have chips, and now we're okay with you being eaten. Goodbye. Right, I need my card list of new cards, because I believe that's Frozen Throne of Exhaust. It's Imagined Possibilities next. This is one of the interesting spell cards, by the way, because it's a Zillion-associated thing, and I believe that what we're getting a look at here is Icathia before the fall. Like, I think that's what this is meant to be, is we have this hourglass shape created by the building or the pile or whatever the hell it is. And inside the portal, we can see void tentacles and purple and, like, bad stuff and covered in sand and whatever. So, oh, things have been destroyed on this side of the portal. But what we're looking at here, I think, is meant to be a look at Icathia the way it looked before they were stupid enough to summon the void and fuck everything up forever. But I just really like the storytelling device of, like, having the portal create a sort of a shearing space and, like, a window into an alternate reality version of this scene that you're looking at. Like, it's just a really neat little way to do storytelling at the same time as creating a functional icon for a spell. Imagined possibilities, right? Like, so there's the imagined possibility of a restored Icathia. This is a good little story time. Then there's the Scrying Sands. There's not much to say about that one. It's just Azir doing his sand magic stuff, which is, like, very cool and all, but it's just Azir doing sand magic. Which means that the next cards are the Wings and the Wave. Why did I say that in that voice? I don't know. And the Wings and the Wave, from a lore perspective, are Zillion's followers Icathian? No, not all of them. Some of them are, but Zillion is gathering mages from all across different timelines. So, like, they could probably be from pretty much everywhere. I tweeted a big chip deck list at you. Hope you enjoy. I'll look for that, Puncake. Thank you. So, lore-wise, these two creatures are interesting. The Kinkus speak of only two gods. The first wave, who cradles life in its warm waters, and the last wind, who snatches life with its final frigid sighs. So, this is tying into the lore around the Mask Mother, and the lore around Kindred, and, like, the embodiments of death, and, like, how death works in Runeterra, because for a long time we only had Kindred. And so the idea was, okay, so Kindred are, like, the death of everyone. Everyone who dies gets to see the Kindred, and that's the end of it. No, turns out it depends what you believe. So if you're the Kinku, and you believe in these people, then, or these spirits, then by the time you die, it's Captain Bird over here is going to show up and snatch your spirit away and take you to the afterlife or whatever. And these are like the only gods that the Kinku apparently believe in. And they're the first sort of religious gods that we've seen that are associated with the Kinku beyond just like the Kinku normally just like, oh, they're spirit realm, something, I don't know, balanced spirit realm. Like, it was always kind of vague what their cosmology was about, but here we have some actual clues to how their worldview works. Specifically, that they have this little frog. He's like, hey, you're a tadpole, come out of the water and you can be alive. And then you have a bird which is like, fuck you, die. That's how the Kinku work. I do like the detail that the frog creature has this scythe-like looking thing, which again is about this dichotomy of, like, for the Kinku, life and death are two halves of the same whole, right? They see it as two parts of the same thing. In the same way that like the kindred are split in two. The kindred is like the lamb who just like gives you a peaceful death if you accept death when it comes, or the wolf who's gonna fucking murder you to death if you try and run away. Mask Mother doesn't create death, she just gives death a face. Yeah, basically. Mask Mother is basically, like, the idea of the Mask Mother is that she gives shape to the spirits of death that go around doing the collecting. But it's also... It's because of the way Riot operates. They like to be vague enough that if they want to, they can say, oh, the Mask Mother thing? No, that's just a story that people believe. That's not necessarily the literal truth. The Mask Mother didn't literally create the kindred. Ha ha ha. Like, they keep it vague enough that they can do that if they want to. So it's one of those things about canon that's always going to be soft. But anyway, these are cute little gods, or cute little death creatures. I kind of like the mask thing that they've got going on. I like the mustache on the little frog creature. So once again, lighting. We have all of the light concentrated around these two creatures. They are the most highlighted things in the entire image. There's no direct sunlight this time, because we're in the Shadow Isles, the Spirit Realm, wherever the hell we are. But we have a lot of direct edge lighting. We have a lot of lighting circulating around them. They're central in the image. And they kind of don't really need a frame because they kind of frame themselves, but they are central in the image. It's easy to see that they're the central characters of what's going on here. Ever gonna do What's the Deal with Lysandra? Oh, keep an eye on my channel over the next couple of weeks. You might be surprised. Yes. Oh, and then there's the Thrashing Snapper. Poor creature. This thing is a frickin' epic wild card. Why is this thing an epic? It's a one cost that just can, like, when an enemy blocks me, I can kill bigger things before I die. Why is this thing epic? Why is this so expensive? It's just a one... What the hell, Riot? Honestly. But anyway, I don't understand that. But the Thrashing Snapper is, of course, the, Wait, now I need to do the filter thing again. God damn it. Is, of course, the Scaled Snapper from Ionia from the original launch set, who looks very happy. It was like he's having a good time. He's just hanging out in Ionia. He's friends with the little birds. And the frog is like, oh, there's my friend, the Scaled Snapper, and it's a good time, and everyone's happy, and it's balanced with nature, yay! And then we see his actual fate is to suffer and die in the Noxian fighting pits, screaming until his last day when his blood is drained and he lies dead in the arena, killed by Draven. Thanks for the fucking bummer, Riot, you assholes. It's just a very mean card. It's just very mean. Like... Really? This happy turtle guy, he had to die like that? You had to do him like that, Riot? Really? You jerks, you bastards. This is a real depiction of how the WWE uses its wrestlers. Oh, you accidentally spilled some truth there, RC Scooter. Anyway, Noxus is evil. I don't know if any of you guys had caught up on that, but Noxus... the Empire that's conquering people and, like, has, like, fighting pits where they murder people by having them executed in gladiatorial combat and, like, that, like, turn everything, like, use all of their resources on the army in order to conquer more territory, which is then used to fuel the army. They're bad guys. Noxus is actually not, like, good, and they're not a meritocracy, and it's not a nice place to live, and you shouldn't like them that much because they're actually bad. Just thought maybe you hadn't picked up on that. Then look what they fucking did to the poor Scaled Snapper. Like, this is friends with the little birds. and then they just do this shit to him. So, like, just in case you weren't clear, Nox is bad, actually. Anyway, so, we have a little bit of framing going on here. It's not a very explicit frame, but there's a little bit of framing where the bulk of the Snapper's body is framed against this black void of nothing inside the gates of the arena itself. Then we have, like, a little compositional trick. Like, it's trapped with all these chains, right? But the bonus of those chains is that they also create lines in the image, and all those lines lead you towards the Snapper itself. So, like, they help the composition of the image, and they also create, look at this. You have this, like, this triangular shape that sort of emerges in the image. And, like, when it comes to image composition, if you can create, like, a triangle wedge shape in the middle of the image, like, out of anything, like, out of any prominent shapes that you have available, if you can create, like, a triangular wedge shape, that's a really good way to lead the eye. That's a really good way to get people to pay attention to one part of the image or the other. If Nox is bad, then why Dairy is hot? Checkmate, atheists. I can't argue with that, Julian Plot. Mostly because it's not an argument, but, like, fair enough. But yeah, the triangle here, like this little triangular wedge shape like this that comes up in the image, that, again, helps lead the eye. And then there's the highlights, like, it's the most highlighted thing. And then the secondary most highlighted thing is, like, the soldiers that are keeping it trapped because they're secondary creatures. They're secondary actors in the action that's playing out, right? And then it's just a really good dynamic pose. Like, you have the long tail creating this swooping curve that then leads into the back. And then you have the neck creating this counter pose against it. Like, this, it just has a really strong pose on it that really gives you the sense that it's, like, flailing around and trying to escape the poor thing because Noxus is evil and is hurting it for no reason. If you had to live in Demacia or Noxus, which would you choose? No, fuck. Oh, God, no. No, I don't want to. I don't want to live in either of those places. Are you crazy? I don't want to live anywhere on Runeterra. Runeterra fucking sucks, man. If I had to live anywhere, it'd be in Ionia, like, before Noxus invaded, or, like, really far away from where they invaded. But if I had to pick between Demacia and Noxus, I'd probably pick Noxus ultimately, because then you could just, like, in Noxus at least, I could be like, yeah, I live in Noxus, but I live in, like, one of the colonies, like, far away from the central city, where they just, like, showed up and was like, we have a big army, you belong to Noxus now, and everyone was like, okay, we don't want to fight, and then the Noxus army just left, and you can kind of live in peace without too much trouble from them. I would not want to live in Noxus proper. Like, I wouldn't want to live in Noxus City. That place fucking sucks. If you're not a mage, Demacia is fine. No, it's not. Not really. Like, it's probably not too bad, but it's like, you still have an upper class nobility of like military elites who control everything, and everyone and everything else is expected to be subservient to the military elite at all times. It's still like a highly feudalized, like really rigid class structure society that's not a lot of fun to live in. Like it's like a hyper nationalist military state. It's not great. Nowhere on Runeterra is good. I don't want to live anywhere on Runeterra if I can avoid it. Right, moving on. Like, Runeterra is not a fun isekai world to go to where you get superpowers and every girl wants to jump on your dick, you know? Like, Runeterra is bad. I don't want to... This is the fucking void that's gonna consume the world any day now. You've got Aurelian's soul hovering in orbit just waiting for the day when he can, like, burn the planet to a crisp. You've got fucking Mordekaiser hanging out in the realm of death planning when he's gonna take over the world. And right now, fucking Viego just, like, might show up out of nowhere because you have, like, a fucking hat pin that Isolde used to wear. He's just gonna show up with an army of the dead and kill everyone? No, I don't want to live on Runeterra. Runeterra is bad, man. It fucking sucks. Garbage place. Terrible. Anyway, I liked to bring this one up because it's a picture of Avarosa. And she's wearing a bustier, and she's got bare fucking thighs out. Riot? Why? Riot? Riot, why? Like, you yourself gave Ash voice lines that were like, haha, it sure is stupid that we're running around without our clothes on, because that's contrary to all of the lore. And then you do a statue of Avarosa, where she's got her fucking thighs out. Because why? It doesn't matter. Whatever. It is dumb, very silly. It annoys me specifically. It doesn't annoy anyone else, I'm sure. But me specifically, I hate it. Like, she looks hot. Don't get me wrong. If Avarosa looks like that, like, hell yeah, mommy. Like, whoa. Absolutely gorgeous, but it's dumb. From a storytelling perspective, it's dumb. Headcanon, Freljordians are immune to cold. Well, that would have to stay in your head, because that's just not canon. She's an Iceborn, dude. I have to explain this every single fucking time. Every time I have to explain this. Iceborn are not immune to cold. They are not immune to cold. They are highly resistant to cold. They can survive the cold a lot better than a normal person, but they are not immune to cold, and they wear normal clothes. In fact, let me show you. Every time I have to show it, but I just want to be done having to explain this. So let me bring up, I'm just finding some evidence for you right now, which is really slow because the universe page is garbage. Load faster. Thank you. Da-da-da-dee. Here you go. Open image in new tab. F11. Oh, wait, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Goddamn website. There we go. And then we go this, go game capture. This is an Iceborn. Furs, leathers, lots of furs and leathers. This is an Iceborn. Leathers and leathers and leathers and leathers. Iceborn, Iceborn. All of these people, these guys right here, that guy right there, Iceborn. They're Iceborn. All of them are Iceborn. All of them are wearing clothes because they're not fucking morons. This guy is an Iceborn. This guy, Iriel, he's like one of Ash's fathers. Like, we don't really know exactly who about it. This is an Iceborn. You know what he's wearing? Fur and leather. Leather and fur. And leather and fur and fur and leather because he lives in the Freljord, and why wouldn't he? And there's this thing. Even Iceborn have limits. This is a bunch of Iceborn walking through the ice. Look at them. Do they look comfortable? Do they look like, hey, that's just a snowstorm. We don't care because we're Iceborn. We're immune to cold. No, they're not immune to cold. Iceborn are not immune to cold. Stop it. Stop saying it. Riot, put out an animated short that shows it or something. I'm tired of having to explain it. This is not your fault. Like, the person who said that, this is not your fault. It's just that I've heard that 400 billion times now, and I'm so tired of having to explain it. Anyway, the point of Braum is that he's a very special Iceborn. Like, he's an Iceborn who's, like, incredibly resilient. That's why he runs around shirtless, is because he's the only one who can actually do that. He's the one Iceborn who's like, yeah, I'm fucking Braum, I can take it. Everyone else would be like, oh, that's a bad idea, Braum, you shouldn't do that, you'll get frostbite. Like, even though you're Iceborn, you'll definitely get frostbite. And Braum is like, haha, I am Braum. Braum can do thing. And then he doesn't do it. That's why he's a champion, is because he's special. And then Tryndamere and Olaf and fucking Gragas, they're Iceborn, but well, actually, we don't know if Tryndamere is an Iceborn, but they were not designed for the Freljord. It's a whole thing. Watch my Building a Better Ash video. I explain the whole thing. Moving on! Blue buff! Fuck this. Moving on. I'm gonna stop complaining. I'm gonna stop complaining. And we'll just do Chip. Hello, Chip. Chip is giving us more adventures now.
Okay, everyone, say hi, Blue. Hi, Blue. Okay, one time I thought he was hi, Blue back, but now that I think about it, it might have been my voice bouncing off the walls. Oh well, he's magical and stuff, and also blue. So if you ask me, he doesn't even need to speak. Okay, Blue, let's go.
Blue is good. I like blue. It's nice that the blue buff is now canon in mainstream League of Legends lore. And I think if we get red buff, people are saying it's probably going to be Ionia, but I would say if we get an Ishtal region, red buff should be from there, because it's like a tree monster, and Ishtal is like the jungle region. But it's probably, if we get a red buff, it's probably going to be Ionian. But I hope so. Anyway, blue buff. So, framing. And the framing here is like patently obvious. You have these 2 stone arcs creating like this round circular frame for the blue buff to occupy. We have the lighting, like the only really source of colored lighting coming from behind here, which draws our attention to here. Then we have blue buff itself, which has, of course, big, bright blue magic lines and stuff all over it, especially right here on its face. And that's, like, those are the compositional basics. Notice also that we have a slight Dutch angle here. Like, we have a slight tilt to the camera, because clearly, like, from our perspective when we're looking at blue buff here, it looks more or less like it's getting ready to punch us, right? Like, it's got the clenched fist, it's kind of hunched over forwards, like the spread steady position. Like, it looks like it's about to charge and kill you. So there's this slightly unbalanced feeling of like, oh, okay. It's just, hello, I'm just walking here with my friend Chip. Please don't kill me. I'm going away now. Bye. It's like a little bit panicked. So canonically, blue buff is called blue. I mean, certainly Malphite and Chip calls it blue. We don't know what it wants to call itself because it doesn't speak. But I really do like it's a nicely designed character, the blue buff. Like, I do like the big central egg shape of its body that just has these, like, things attached to it kind of floating magically off the side of it. It's just a good little golem design. Looks quite cool. Then we have the Crest of Insight. And here's Chip. Look at him. That is Chip. That's my boy. That's my little tiny boy. My little boy for scale.
This is Blue's favorite place in the whole wide world. He says it's super magical.
Which again, if you've listening to the stream so far, framing, central point of light and interest, and Chip for scale, to give you a sense of it. So yeah, not a lot to say about this one, I think. This one I really like. We'll talk about that in a sec. Let me look at chat. How is everyone doing in chat? Are you having fun? Are you enjoying the stream? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Did I complain too much about the Iceborne? Yes, I did. Look behind Blue's leg. Oh yeah, Chip is there. You are having fun. Good. Good. I am glad you are having fun. You always complain just enough. I mean, the comments would disagree. Can we talk about Avarosa's thighs more? I mean, they're very good thighs. I just wish they weren't there. Well, I mean, I don't mind that she has thighs, but like this, she looks like she should become. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's a statue. It doesn't matter. It's not a person. It's a statue. It's fine. It's fine. It's a statue. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We should make a cult for Chip. Yes. Are you having fun? Oh yeah, I'm enjoying myself tremendously. I always love doing these streams, but I try not to do them too often. So Pike, yes. Pike is coming to Legends of Runeterra at some point. We kind of assume that he's coming in the next set, like in the next expansion to the set. And this is kind of just an announcement that Pike is coming at some point or another. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this is a really good dynamic, because how do you make a static image look like it moves? Like, how do you make it look like there's movement, like there's speed, like there's things happening? Now, if you look at anime art, and comic book art for that matter, the answer you get is speed lines. Like, just put speed lines on it, lots of speed lines, motion blur, like do all that stuff to make the thing look like it's moving. But how would you do it if you can't use those tools? Because this icon needs to be very clean and very clear, so that it works for gameplay purposes. Like, you don't want the icon on the spell card to have a bunch of speed lines on it because that makes it harder to read what's going on? Well, you do two things. You do an extreme perspective, so you have this extreme distortion of perspective as this thing is moving not directly towards the viewer, but moving like towards you-ish, so you have this perspective distortion and foreshortening. And you do other effects in the image. And in this case, what they're doing this spiraling water splash coming out of the background along with the bone skewer, which gives it this sense of forward momentum, like it has just burst through the water and has dragged these water particles along with it as it's moving forward. And there's a lovely sense of speed in the image just from those things being there, while the actual painting of the thing, like from a comic artist perspective, would seem to be very static, but because of the way that it's composed, because of the way it's put together, it works really well, and I really like it. Skyen, I want you to do a rant on why the Watcher has a horny feel to it. Do I have to explain that, really? Like, I don't know. Do I have to explain why this character design is a little bit horny? Like, you can see it, right? It has tentacles on its face, it has, like, 6 arms, and it's very large. Have you not been paying attention to the Resident Evil hype? Like, all the people who want to fuck the vampire lady? You think they get less horny if the lady gets bigger? Or the creature? Like the monster fuckers know what I'm talking about. Horny doesn't, like, it. A horny character design doesn't have to have the tits out. A horny character design doesn't have to have, like very obvious, like, oh, this is a thing for the fucking. Sometimes it just has to have certain physical features that line up with certain kinks. Like, that's really all it takes. So, like, I don't know, I don't have to explain it, I think. Anyone who knows already knows, and anyone who doesn't understand it, I can't explain it to them. No, Lucas, they're not my kinks. It's just I have a lot of kinky friends. And I've also been on the internet since, like, the late 90s. I have seen everything. I have seen everything. Nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing. I promise you that. Anyway, are those Yortles? Answer is no, we think. Probably not. So, and the thing is this here, the first Sawnite miners to discover the Kyrian, or Kyrian, or whatever, thought them timid, simple creatures, but as the years passed, and as they grew comfortable with humans, they slowly revealed their close societal bonds and their seemingly native understanding of technology. So they are a new species of creature, called the Kyrian, or the Kyrian, or whatever, that are sort of these little fuzzy, furry gremlin things that live in Sawn, I guess, alongside the Wumps, which are also creatures that live in Zaun. The Harbo. I don't like how the Watcher's many arms look so human. This thing is a leader of the Void. No, it's not a leader of the Void. The Watchers that emerge from the Howling Abyss are lesser Void creatures. They're minor Void creatures. And the actual, the real intelligences in the Void, like the real, like the leaders, air quotes, of the Void, whatever they are a lot bigger. Like, they're the size of, like, they're the size of small planets and moons. Like, they're absolutely massively huge. But the reason why the Watcher looks the way it does, let's bring the Watcher up again so I can explain. It's a little bit, the trouble with Watchers and the trouble with anything Void related is that Riot has changed their minds about it many, many times in the past. But basically, the way it's described, as the Watchers emerge from the Howling Abyss, the problem that Void creatures have is that they don't, like, in the Void, there's no laws of physics. Like, there's no laws of physics, there's no such thing as mass, there's no such thing as anything. So when they enter the physical realm, what they need to do is they need to take on a shape of some kind that allows them to act on the world. So that's why you get creatures like Voidlings, creatures like the really, really small fry. Like, the really simple creatures are the ones like Kha'Zix, are the ones like Rek'Sai, are the ones like Voidlings and things like that. They just take on, like, some kind of vague animal shape, and then they're purple, and then they just go and do their fucking thing. But the higher Void Intelligence is like Vel'Koz is like one step above that, and he chooses a form. Like he specifically has chosen the floating tentacle monster form for himself because it serves his purposes. And then you get to something like the Watchers, which are like an order of magnitude above even a creature like Vel'Koz, and they seem to have chosen a form specifically to imitate Lysandra, and a form that allows them to do manipulation of the magic of Runeterra, which is what we see it doing right here. And that's why they take on something like a human form, is because, okay, this human form will allow us to do the thing that we want to do, which is fucking ruin everything. As far as I understand the lore, that's why the Watchers look the way that they do. It's because they are higher order void creatures that need to take on some kind of physical form in order to act on the physical universe. Okay, moving on. Or moving back, rather, to the Kyrian Sump Workers. So, framing, you can see it right there, the bridge, and like the buildings in the background creates a little bit of a frame. Then we have the Kyrian Sump Worker here, the frontmost one, being very, very close to the camera. It's very large in the image itself. It has saturated colors compared to the other Kyrian Sump Workers especially. It has higher contrast, it has a little bit more lighting going on it, and it's just central in the image, and that makes it the central character. Pretty simple composition. And then we have the secondary characters of the other Kyrians, or Kyrians, or Chirians, or whatever. However the hell is supposed to pronounce it. Hanging out as sort of supporting characters in the image, which of course leads us into the Sumpwork Posse, which is Kyrians or Kyrians that have obtained some kind of lightning rod, and now they're just like fucking Mad Maxing it down like a zip line on like a little bike that they've got put together, and absolutely wrecking the shit of everyone that gets in their way. And again, the framing here is pretty simple. You have all this shattered metal over here, you have these machines over there that they're breaking down. They're just smashing stuff, I guess, for whatever reason. And that sort of creates a central framing for them. There's also another thing going on. The background here, because it's explosions, lots of yellow, lots of red, then we have the green of Zaun, but the Kyrians themselves are identified with this green and with this darker brown, which makes them stand out against the very bright background. So, like, again, all of that just contributes to the thing being what it is. They're sweet enough on their own, sure, but get a bunch of them together, and before you know it, they built some kind of madcap machine and are off knocking down some part of the lanes. Zaun Machinist. Let's see. These are not new. You are new. She summons blades. Yeah. So, looking back in at chat. How's chat doing? Will you review the Meet the Team videos on Team Fortress 2? Probably not. And the reason why is pretty simple. There's no views in it. Which, like... Yeah, I mean, I don't especially enjoy giving that as a reason, but there just isn't. There wouldn't be a lot of views in it, unfortunately. And the trouble with that is, like, I wouldn't mind doing videos that don't get a lot of views, and sometimes I do. Like, sometimes I do videos where I know that they're not going to get a lot of views because I want to do them, but when you do that, YouTube punishes you. Like, the algorithm looks at your video and goes, oh, your video underperformed. Well, I guess that means people aren't interested in watching your videos. And so the next thing you post, even though that's on a popular subject or a thing that people really want to see, your views just get lower. The algorithm just goes, oh, your videos aren't as interesting anymore, so we won't show them to people. So you get punished if you try to, like, do something unusual that's not where there's not a lot of views. So sometimes I do videos that don't get a lot of views intentionally, but when I do it, it's because it's something I really want to do, and I'm not that invested in the Team Fortress shorts, unfortunately. So, anyway, sorry for talking business. Caught the stream late. Love your content. Thank you, Faris. That's very kind of you. Hey, Scotty, I'm going to be doing a video on the Apex Legends shorts. Well, actually, that's funny you should bring that up in this context, because there might be one coming out, which is going to get a lot less views than my normal animation breakdowns, probably. And I've kind of decided to do that because I wanted to do it on that thing. Maybe. It depends on... There's some behind-the-scenes stuff going on with that one. I don't know whether that's going to resolve, but maybe. Maybe there's an animation breakdown on an Apex Legends short coming out. Whew. Caio Lucas Silva, I never heard about your channel. I just got here because of recommendations. Hello. Hi. Oh, the Clockwork Curator. Did I miss one? Oh, yeah, shit, right, that one's new. I thought that was the old, I thought that was the, that's the one from the, I thought it was the Clockling from Ancient Preparations, but it's not. It's a different one. Do you know what they say about Iceborne? Please don't, Mark. Please don't. Don't get me started again. We spent enough time on that already. Right. Clockwork Curator. And it is, I believe it is a continuation of... it's just... No, can't do that. Okay. I believe it is a continuation of this. Like, I believe it's like, oh, we have found the thing, and you can see they're all coming down from, like, from above, and, oh, we found the Icathian golem things, and I think the thing they're digging out here is, like, old Icathian clockwork golems that they're gathering up for Zillion to use in his tower during the whatever thing. Clockwork Curator, back to find you. There you are. And then this is like the next stage of that, where they're like they're digging them out and they're doing little, oh, we must uncover the things for the Zilly. So that it's a continuation of the story, of them finding this thing. Anyway, so framing, there's not a lot of it, but there's a little bit if you pay attention to this arc right here, and this bit of wall right there. Like, this creates a sort of, like, a little bit of a framing space for this central clockling to occupy, as, like, which again, he has the highlighting from the sun, which literally highlights him. He's more saturated than everything else, and that's kind of what puts him in the center of the image, but he's not as central of a character as other main characters and images are, because this image itself is more about the storytelling of this whole little crew of tiny clocklings trying to extract this thing from the sand. I forgot about the wings and the wave. Nope, I covered them. We covered them. We have been over them. Then there's lead and follow, which again, like, the reason why I didn't look at that one is because there's really, it's just a spiral. Some ribbons. There's nothing really to say about it. If I skip a spell, you can just kind of assume it's because I'm not interested in whatever it is. Anyway, compositionally, this image is really interesting, because remember how we've been talking about framing over and over and over and over again? Like, oh, framing here, framing there, framing in the other place, framing on the... Look at how the framing is being used in this image, because the frame is here, and it frames Aatrox Glinthorn, who's the Noxian card that stuns people, as if that narrows anything down. It frames Aatrox Glinthorn as the ostensible central character of the image, which is a strange thing to do, but that's because the image here is about a conflict between Aatrox and his soldiers, who are getting their asses handed to them, and the Ribbon Dancer herself here in the image. And so the other things that are happening in order to create that dichotomy is, like, we have the framing centering Aatrox, but then we have the Ribbon Dancer who's creating the framing, who is much more saturated. Like, look at all the color in this image pretty much belongs to her. It's her, like, green and red bodysuit. It's her, like, red ribbons flying through the air. They have all of the color saturation, just all of it. Whereas Aatrox Glinthorn, even though he's, like, gold and red and brown, is like, oh, he's the Minotaur character, he's all washed out. Like, there's very little real color saturation on him. So we have this color saturation still making this the central character, because every line and every ribbon and every, like, all of this stuff leads back to her. But he acts as a secondary character in the image, because this is about a duel between these two happening during an invasion of Ionia at some point or another or whatever. And once again, shout out to the studio to the Sixmo Vodka people, because the faces on the Noxian soldiers in the backgrounds, the ones that we see, nice little bit of variety on them. They look rough around the edges, they look like conscripts, and not the time, Demore Real Gaming MT. Not the time, please. So this, like... So that's an interesting way to do the composition. It kind of threw me off my groove there, dude. And something else I really like about this image is the way that the ribbons are implied blood. Like, you look at the way, like, the ribbons that extend from the pitch of her dagger weapons, whatever the hell these things are. Like, the way that this thing is, like, slit across his throat, and this thing, like, slides across the side of this guy's face. They imply trails of blood. Like, they imply the killing without showing it. It's a clever little way to incorporate that kind of imagery without running into trouble with censorship and things like that, like explicit gore. It's a very nice little way to do that. But yeah, it's yet another slender lady hourglass shape person in a game that's full of them already, so that's a little boring. And this, like, and of course, like, there's no problem with her being slender because she's a dancer, but if you look at actual rhythmic gymnastics performers, like actual people who perform rhythmic gymnastics, they don't look like this. They ain't got them curves, son. Like, they ain't got those. They have fucking core strength for days. They have like solid cores, and like they don't have these thick thighs. Anyway, it's just my little bugbear. It doesn't matter. It's not important here. It's not that important here. My little bugbear, my little annoyance. Look at that. Look at our boy. Our boy Chip. He's here. Chip is here. He's the important character. And then there's the secondary character, which is Cliff. Where the hell's Cliff? Cliff, where are you at? You're here somewhere. I know you are. There, Earth Elemental. It's this guy. Here's Chip again. Or maybe it's one of Chip's brothers, for all we know. But it's my boy. It's my good boy. And remembering the stuff we've talked about. So, framing, lighting, detail, and color saturation. What do we have got going on? Well, we have a frame here, which frames Cliff, which frames the rock elemental who's breaking away from this place, or maybe causing it to crumble or whatever. We have a frame around him, so he's one character in the image. Then we have lighting. We have literally just this little spotlight of sun falling on Chip, who's standing here looking over the whole thing. So that creates him as a secondary character in the image. And then, to give us the central character of the image as such, which is the rockfall path, which is this bit right here, we have color and saturation. Like, we have lots of color, we have lots of saturation, we've got lots of sunlight dappling down over the green field on this thing that's crumbling into the dirt and people falling down and dying a lot, probably. Compare that to stuff like over here, to the rocks over here. A lot more sunlight, lots more light, and this over here is much more desaturated. So we have all three of the elements that we've talked about so far, like framing, lighting, and color, being used on different parts of the image to make sure the different parts of the image, like, have, like, that they're all highlighted, that they're all part of the composition, but that they don't overpower each other, and that we still get a sense of, okay, this is the important feature in the image. This is what Chip is looking at. This is highlighted with, like, light and color, so you kind of get the sense that, okay, yeah, this bit is the important part, without, like, getting distracted by the other characters in the image. It's, compositionally, it's very good. Like, it's just very solid craft when it comes to, like, making an image where you can have all these details work together without interfering with each other. It's just, this is just a really nice, it's not exciting, but it's just a really nice little illustration. Like, it's just really, oh, you did a really good job on a technical level making the card do the thing that it's supposed to do. It's just good job, artist who did that. Let's see. Her silver armor looks less painful than Aurelia's. Oh, yes, you're right. The ribbon dancer. Because there's less, like, there's no spikes. You see? Like, look at that. Where Irelia, she has these spikes that point inwards towards her sternum, towards her belly. This character has these rounded shapes that look like they could be flexible. That looks like she can bend and do stuff without stabbing herself. It's funny how that works. And there was another super chat also. Are you going to do show reviews for something like Castlevania or Dota Dragon's Blood? Maybe Into Arcane? Swagmaster. That's the other thing. Is like, the reason I'm able to do animation breakdowns of League of Legends animations is because Riot is very nice to content creators and they don't copyright claim them. If I tried to do something similar with Castlevania, I would get a copyright strike on my channel like that, because they just, like, it's fair use. I'm doing commentary and review. It's completely fair use under the law, obviously, but the copyright bots and things that detect whether or not you're using too much footage of their thing, they don't give a shit. Like, they don't care about fair use, and you have to take an appeals process, and you get a copyright strike on your channel for the duration of it. It's so much fucking trouble, and it's not worth it for an animation, like, because there are definitely scenes in Castlevania, like the Castlevania anime, that I am desperate to talk about, like, especially the whip animations with Trevor. Holy fucking shit, man. But I just don't want to risk it, because copyright is fuck assholes. Like, I don't want to fight them over it. Like, anime channels on this platform get fucked all the time for playing like 5 seconds of footage from some episode where the company just decides to fuck the channel for no goddamn reason. I don't want to fuck with it. I don't want to mess with it. It's too risky. I need to pay my rent, and this is how I do that, so I can't fuck with it. Unfortunately. The Solari believe that it was Targon's Sunhawks, brilliant as they are, who caught the immortal fire's attention and who subsequently inspired her cycle of death and rebirth. And the immortal fire, of course, is this birdie right here. And, like, you can see that there... Oh, yeah, there's some inspiration. There's some design overlap there. I wish there was a more convenient way to navigate these things. Anyway, Solari Sunhawk. So, remember the things we've talked about so far, and the main thing that highlights the Sunhawk in this image is color and saturation. Because while we look at these gorgeous sunburst colors, like look at that gorgeous orange and yellow and red that's being used all along the wings of this creature, and then compare and contrast that with like the colors in the rest of the image. Like, yeah, there's some oranges going on in the banners and stuff, but this is like this bright burst of highly saturated color that just looks gorgeous in the center of the image that just grabs all of your attention, and that's kind of all you need. And then you have, like, obviously also the handler, who's reaching out to the bird, which again creates this line of movement towards the creature. But this is just all color and saturation, and they're gorgeous colors too. Like, I'm a sucker for like fire and sunsets and like oranges and reds being used in like ways that imply glow. And this is just really like, oh, it's real pretty colors, man. And wings are hard. Wings are hard to paint. Like, it's really fucking hard to paint wings well, and this is a nice pair of wings that they got going on here. Just a gorgeous set of color work. Oh my god, these birds are so pretty. Yeah, right? Like, oh, it's a pretty bird. What do you think of the Ionia problem with Runeterra, where Ionia is in a bad spot because they have more champions than any other regions, thus for balance, not all champs can be in the game? Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a hole that Riot dug themselves into, because generally speaking, they're Ionian champions and like Asian-inspired champions, broadly speaking, champions like Jhin, champions like Syra Khan, Ahri especially, they have a tendency to be pretty popular, and so Riot management is like, hey, that thing is popular, it makes money, make more of that. So there's a pressure to make more champions in that space, and now they're getting fucked by it because it creates problems in game design down the line. But that's just how game development works. The people who make the business decisions regularly make decisions that fuck the people who are trying to do game design. That's normal, unfortunately. And that's why I don't think we're getting Bandle City, because like there's plenty of Yordles in the game, but most of them aren't associated with Bandle City. like in Bandle City you have like Tristana, Corki, not even Lulu because she's Ionia. Tristana, Corki, and fuck all else, I think. Like, Teemo is in Piltover and Zaun. Rumble is definitely gonna be Shurima. So, like, yeah. Anyway, gorgeous bird. Love the bird. Bird is good. And the bird is also good here. Where we have a much more explicit, like, we have, like, the sunlight being framed through the crest on the thing's head. Which is just like a lovely little effect as this thing is swooping down to claw your eyes out. But just, oh, the oranges, man. Especially contrasted against the blue in the background. Mwah. Pretty. Really pretty. Just pretty art. Very pretty art. Then we have Syncopation, which is like, again, how we talked about, like, you can't really overuse speed lines too much in paintings like these because they have to look good at this size. So they use a lot of light and like a double shadow thing to imply movement, and this is a perfectly good little time spell. Then we have Zillion again, doing more time stuff. Again, surrounded by 3 objects that all point towards him, which is the same thing we saw... the way up here where we had the thing. Where's the thing? It was in Zillion's own cards, right? Yeah, Chrono Shift. 3 objects pointing towards Zillion, which is a motif that then gets repeated in Time in a Bottle. 3 objects that are sort of like, you can see the central parts of the discs are sort of pointing towards him. So they like to repeat that 3 structure with Zillion for whatever reason. It's just funny little things you observe. Right. Grumpy Squat. I cannot stay for the rest, but I wanted to show my appreciation for your content. Also, if I could choose where in Runeterra to live, it would be with the Star Goats running a chip to a rest stop. Actually, that's a good answer. Like, yeah, I think you're right. I think the place to live would be with the tribe of creatures that, like, I think they're Restaya or something along those lines. With that tribe on Mount Targon under the protection of Soraka. That would be a good place to live. Herding Star Goats, drinking Star Goat milk, I don't know, eating plants probably. That would probably be like the closest thing to a good life you can have on Runeterra. Because Runeterra sucks. Soothsayer. Yes, Soothsayer. Where is it? There you are. I knew I forgot something. Hey, do you have any tips for beginner artists? Either just a general tip or maybe a course creator you recommend? I adore your content and highly resonate with your passion for character design. I don't... I mean, the trouble with asking... Like I was a commission artist for like 8 years. 7? For some years. I made my money being a commission artist. Like, I was a professional artist for a bunch of time. And the trouble is, like, it's been a very long time since I was a beginner. So most of my advice... Like, usually... Our advice, like experienced artists, our advice sucks for our beginner artists because we're all thinking about, oh, all these mistakes I made when I was younger. I wish I could have done this differently. I wish I could have done that differently. But that's not helpful for you because those are our mistakes that we're thinking about and trying to compensate for. The only advice that works is practice. Like practice and find people, like find a community that you can practice along with. Like people who are willing to give you constructive criticism, like who you can trust to not be cruel, like to not just be mean to you and just say your art is shit for no reason. Like people that like you can interact with, that you can draw things in collaboration with them. Find a community and practice. And fuck the rules. Fuck the rules. The rules don't matter. There are no rules. Fuck anatomy doesn't matter. Perspective just draw stuff that makes you happy. And if you need to learn the technical skills, anatomy, perspective, composition, all that shit, fine, like look up classes online, like learn those skills, but don't get bogged down in them. Don't go thinking like, oh, I have to draw correct anatomy, otherwise it's bad art. No, fuck it. Like draw 12-gallon tits on your characters if you want to, or give them longer legs than are humanly possible. Do whatever the fuck you want. Art is free. Don't get bogged down by rules because it kills the joy. Just do whatever you want. So I can big titty babes. Yes, if it makes you happy. Like, I criticize big titty babes and shit when it's corporate art. Like, when it's Riot Games, the billion-dollar company putting it out, like, doing lazy versions of characters where it's just sex appeal for no god. I criticize that, but if you want to start a webcomic where everybody has large breasts, fucking do it. Where everyone's hot as hell for no goddamn reason, do it. I'm not gonna say shit about that. Because you do you. It's your art. I don't care about it. I go after the corporations and the companies. They're the ones who get, like, deserve to get shit on. But, like, if you're just a person making art for yourself, fuck it. No rules. Do what you want. Anyway, this... this artwork... I need to compose myself for a second there. So, framing. We have an obvious frame, which is like just this arch. which then concludes over here. So, like, you have a little bit of framing here that sort of creates a frame around our soothsayer herself. And she's a propagandist for Azir, basically. Ah, you did not expect to see water in the middle of the desert. Worry not. Come, drink your fill, wash your feet, rest in the shade a while. This is Azir's new Shurima, and it is an oasis. Yes, you get water in the desert, but only if you pledge allegiance to the, like, unelected tyrant who just showed up one day and said, I'm the emperor now, fuck you. Propagandist, but she has pretty good reasons to be, I suppose. But yeah, it's nice to see a slightly thicker girl. Certainly in the concept art for her, she's specifically depicted as a plus-size woman, which is nice. Like, I like seeing some difference in the artwork sometimes. It's nice to have that. Can't really see that so much here because of the way her robe is flowing around her, but it's a thing. It's nice. And I appreciate that a lot. So again, the stuff we talked about already, you already know. Highlighting with light, and she's more saturated than the characters in the background, etc., etc. And then there's the Dutch angle on this one, and I think really they just chose a tilted angle here to again give a little bit more drama to the image, because if they had just a flat, if they had a flat horizon line, I think the image would just feel much more static and less interesting. It also, there's also a perspective decision where we're looking at her as though we are kind of lying in the water, looking up at the sky. Like, we're seeing her from a perspective from below, which puts her in a position of power, which of course is what she is. Like, she's someone who has a position of power over you, because she's the soothsayer doing the magic incense thing in this oasis place thing. Like, she's the propagandist, so she is like someone who's powerful in Azir's cult, or whatever the hell he has around him. Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason for the tilted angle, is like to create the sense of her as a steady person in control, and you as a little bit off balance, and just to create a little bit more drama. Kind of like with the Droplet that we talked about earlier, where it's like we just chose this tilted angle because, hey, it creates a little bit of drama in an image that would otherwise be kind of static. Which is like, it's a cheap trick in some ways, except it's not cheap because it makes it harder to draw the image, actually. But it's like a simple trick, but it's one that works, so there's no reason not to do it. Kahiri the student was in the... yeah, he was in the first part of the expansion. He was before Zillion got released. See, this is why I love... oh, maybe the 3 motif for Zillion is to represent past, present, and future. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. That sounds entirely plausible. That's what it's supposed to be. See, this is why I love your content. You're so passionate about art in general. I hope to enjoy more of your content for years to come. Thank you. I hope you do enjoy it for years to come. Anyway, here's some big amphibians in the desert who eat people. Hello to Vor. Adding that to the list of, like, we've got a powerful lady with whips, and then we've got Vor, so we've got lots of kinks going on here all at once, plus furries. But yeah, so framing, this one's pretty obvious. Again, we have the framing of the portal doorway to whatever ruin it is that these Bakai are guarding. And that sort of creates a nice frame around our central character, which is this badass whip lady who, like, it's hard to see from here, but she has some muscle on her. Like, she's got some pretty muscled thighs and, like, arms, so she looks like a reasonable character design for, like, a hardened warrior like that, which I appreciate. And she just looks cool. Like, she just looks fucking cool. It's like, the skirt and, like, the whatever the hell these leg warmer things are, like, she looks a little fetishy. Like, she looks a little bit like she was designed to be hot more than to be like a Shuriman character. But she also looks really cool. Like, I really fucking love that ponytail with, like, the braids in it, like the little thing she's got braided into it. Like, she's just a cool character design. She looks a little too horny, like a little too horny, in a way that feels a little distracting, at least to me. Like, your mileage may vary. This is very much just a personal thing. Like, maybe a little too horny. But, like, I don't mind, because I kind of like that horny. But yeah. And I do like that she's, like, driving away these Bakai who's like, holy shit, they just ate Tom! Tom, no, I loved him! Just running away, like, because yeah, fuck that. Who wants to fight that shit? Holy fuck. Yeah, pretty impressive making Bakai run off like that. And there, tied up nice and pretty. Again, kink. Renekton likes his meals delivered still squirming. Kink! It's very kinky. It's a little too horny. Just a little bit. But, what was I saying? Right, the Bakai. So, for those who don't know the lore, Bakai are failed ascendants. Like, they're people who went for the ascension ritual, had the sun disk pour energy into them, and then it didn't quite work. Like, something went wrong, and they got turned into these, like, half-ascended, like, still furries, but not quite as hot as like, Renekton and Nas. Like, less hot furries, basically, is what they get turned into. Some of them are hyenas, like this one. We have a Bakai like that, actually. There. This thing, rampaging Bakai. Some of them get turned into these hyena creatures, and they seem to act like tomb guards around Shurima. And apparently Renekton's new posse of people like to go around capturing them, so Renekton can kill them because they look like his brother, I guess. Because he's got that whole thing going on. And that's the lore on that. And Spyro says, "That's my boy Chip! Chip's here. Chip is my good boy, and he's here. There's Chip. There he is. That's my boy." And this is, like, again, a lovely piece of artwork. Again, the stuff we talked about with the rock elemental applies here as well. We have the lighting, highlighting Chip, but also look at the way the lighting consistently falls on this giant, enormous, weirdly illogical stairway that someone apparently built in the middle of Targon. That, like, goes down here and, like, comes down over the mountain and continues down there somehow. I don't know. This is big illogical stairway, spiral stairs that goes all the way up the mountain. Like, I think it's supposed to be like, does it continue even out here? I can't tell. Anyway, lighting does the job of highlighting the thing. Chip, because he's like all the way over here to the side and not inside any of the golden ratios. He's like a character, but he's like a secondary character in the image. The primary character being the view and the staircase and, like, the architecture itself. Stuff we talked about before. You are by far the most casual streamer YouTube I've ever come across when it comes to the kink and fetish. YouTube censors it. It's refreshing. I mean, you should watch some VTubers then. Hardly. But, yeah, I try to be sex positive. Like, I try not to do any, like, performative sex negativity because I find it tedious and also unhealthy and bad. Like, the world is kinky, human beings are kinky, and it's, broadly speaking, harmless so long as everyone's educated and, like, so long as, like, repression is what leads to the damage, you know? Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Don't demonetize me, please, YouTube. I need this money. I need to pay my rent. I'm so poor. No, I'm not. I'm fine. But yeah, another little lovely composition here. So one thing that's like a little bit subtle about this is there's actually a lot of strong perspective going on here. So if you follow these lines, right, out this way, so you can see there's a vanishing point somewhere out here where all of these lines converge, but then there's a secondary vanishing point where if you drew like a straight line across the tops of the steps here, and then a line there's a secondary vanishing point that goes up in this direction up here. And then, on top of that, there's a tertiary vanishing point. That's really hard to see here, but basically if you imagine, if you could see the rest of the step here, and then see it coming down like that, and then a line like from here, coming down like that. There's a tertiary. This is a 3-point perspective that's being executed here, and it's being executed really well. It's just a little thing that I noticed about this image. That, holy shit, they did a 3-point perspective for this picture of a flower, which I just appreciate a lot because that's a really complicated perspective to pull off for something so simple. Just a nice little thing that I wanted to bring up. Also, oh, I forgot. So you're probably thinking that your legs are like, wow, tired right now. But I've seen the people who walk around here a lot, and sooner or later they all get all kinds of muscles, unless they're Leona, in which case they remain thin forever. So keep at it, and let's go again. But anyway, remember how I talked about sometimes there just isn't much to talk about with spells? Like, Spoils of War is one of those. What else is there? Oh, there's the Blossoming Blade. Irelia's girlfriend. And this is one of my favorite card arts in this expansion. Like, this is such a cool fucking card. Like, this is just such a cool illustration. This is a really cool character concept. It's a really cool composition. This shit just rules. Full stop, just rules. This is just really, really good. This is just really... I just want to bring that up front. This whole fucking thing rules. So, number one thing that rules, the framing, right? We talked about framing before, so we have the framing being created by, like, the cliffside, and then the bridge itself, which she's, like, tearing apart and, like, ripping up into the sky. You have this rope and stuff that creates this framing around her as well, which is a visual signifier of her power, that she's doing this to the environment. And then you have, like, all these fucking Noxians just being tossed around like motherfuckers, because, like, her blades and, like, her petal things are, like, slashing all over. It's so fucking cool. I love this artwork. But I also love that she's the Blossoming Blade, right? Like, she's literally designed to look like an opening flower with petals that are stretching out across the way, up to the point of even having the stamens of flowers, like the bits that appear that have pollen on them, are also represented by the ribbons that come out from her. It's like, oh, it's just cool. And it has the added compositional benefit of creating all these lines in the image that lead back to the central character, which is the Blossoming Blade herself, right there. It's just, mwah, this is good. This is such a good illustration. This is so cool. Whoever made this, absolute kudos to you, because this thing is just, oh, this is good. This is really good card art. I really like it. I really, really appreciate it. I just saw this one the moment it was, like, the moment I saw this card for the first time, I was like, yeah, I don't want to be critical. This just rules. Like, I could criticize it, but I don't want to, because it's awesome. It's just good. It's just good art. I like that art. Right. I should look at chat, by the way. Hi, chat. How you doing? Was Xenotype Researcher new? Nope, that one was from the original expansion. I just needed to open a window. It's getting kind of stuffy in here. Could you make a high-risk channel where you would probably get your clicks and money taken away without letting your other channel suffer? Like, yeah, maybe. That's maybe if I wanted to get into... Like, I don't want to make, like, sex education content on the regular. It's just, in streams, sometimes it comes up. So, like, yeah. But I have enough second channels already. Like, I have my Let's Play channel, and my Shorts channel, and my Vlog channel. That's fucking enough. Anyway, you're enjoying the stream. I'm glad to hear it. I'm always a little nervous about these streams that like because with these cards they use the same tricks a lot. Like, it's the same principles being applied many times, and I keep repeating myself because it's here it is. Here's the thing being used there. Here's the thing being used. I feel like I go in circles and it probably gets boring after a while. Oh, I meant more like the Castlevania thing. Oh, the Castlevania thing. Yeah, I mean, I could, but, like those channels would just never get subscribers because, like, the videos would just get taken down. The channels would just get struck. And I do believe YouTube has policies where, like, if you violate community guidelines on one channel, i.e. if you get copyright strikes many times on one channel, that can affect your other channels as well. So it's not like there's a way to be safe there. So, something we've brought up before. Again, what I really like, especially about the Sigma Vodka cards, when you look at the faces that are in them, there's a great variety. Like, there's a great variety of like, facial constructions. There's different noses, different cheekbones, different jawlines. And that's something I really like, because in League of Legends proper, like, main League of Legends game, there's a fucking tendency for same-face syndrome. Like, there's a tendency towards that, both men and women. in main League of Legends, so I'm just happy to see that you get lots of different kinds of faces when you look at the various cards. Like, even the Gallant Rider here, right? Like, that's a different kind of face. Like, he's got a different jawline, he's got a very prominent chin. The Field Musicians, different faces. Like, it's just nice to see. It's something I want to call out, because it's I enjoy it. Anyway, so, my dearest Kay. We need like, Ken Burns music, like, from, like, the Civil War or whatever. They arrived this morning on a line of ships that broke the horizon and blotted out the sunrise, blah, blah, blah. It's basically just a very sad letter, charred letter, which means it implies that this guy gets crushed by, like, a falling flaming rock or whatever, as he's trying to defend the coastline. These are the characters from the animated shorts that the Guardians of the Ancient animated short that they used to announce the set. We just get to see them again in a different setting. But it's the same scene with the Noxians coming from the sea, and we don't know if this is like a second invasion of Noxus. That's the other thing about lore in the League of Legends universe and canon is Legends of Runeterra is canon, sorta. Like, it's canon, but not quite. Like, it's not canon in the sense of anything that happens, like interactions, for example. You get an interaction between Azir and Irelia being on the same side, right? Like, they have some voice lines that they share with each other. It's like, oh, they shall learn to fear our blades, shouts Azir. And then Irelia's like, yes, we appreciate the assistance of Shurima or whatever. But, like, Shurima and like, Azir's empire doesn't have an alliance with Ionia. Like, that's not a thing that's canon in the game. And the thing that's become more and more meddlesome recently, and we'll talk about that more when we get to Cythria, is that they're taking more and more weird liberties with when exactly things take place in the lore that are being depicted in the cards. So is this the first or second invasion of Ionia? Is this a new invasion being led by Swain? We don't quite know, actually. So, I don't know. Dear sister, by the time you're reading this, I will be dead. Yeah. Yeah. What you say? Yeah, basically. Very funny. The rioters confirmed that everything in lore is canon, though. Yeah, they said that, but then they also said that, no, I mean, yeah, it's all canon, except sometimes some of it isn't canon. Sometimes, but sometimes it is, and then sometimes, like, there's some conflicting information out there. And we'll get to that when we get to Cythria, because Cythria apparently is a fucking time traveler now. Oh, we'll get to you, my girl. I love you, but you're creating so many canon problems for the game. I'm telling you. Anyway, framing and lighting. We have the lighting on the character doing most of the highlighting for us. We have him framed in the sense that, like, you can see he's got characters on this side, he's got characters on that side, but around him, lots of empty space. So he's like the central character in the image being framed against their bodies. And we have the lighting, we have the color, and etc., etc., etc. That's about it. Really, again, I'm a sucker for a good sunset. It looks gorgeous. Like, the edge lighting here looks beautiful. They do love setting every card at the golden hour, don't they? Right. Moving on to the Earth Elemental. Okay, so this is Cliff. He's a big old fella who's been around the block quite a few times, let me tell you. And I know that he looks cool, and I know that he's just like a nice guy, but he's got a lot of heavy stuff on his back, and sometimes it falls on people, so be careful. Okay, thank you, moving on. My boy Chip. My good boy Chip. My excellent boy Chip. For scale. And again, so if you think back, if you were here for the Malphite cards 10 million years ago, you may remember some of the stuff we talked about when it comes to depicting grand scale. And those little tricks are in evidence again. We don't have humans in this image, but we have Chip for scale, and we have birds for scale, which is something that the Malphite card also does, by the way. Hello, Malphite. Birds for scale, just to help give you a sense of how frickin' big this frickin' thing is. And now we have to find the elemental. There we go. Birds for scale, to help you get a sense of where in the space that he is, that he's far enough away that birds can be between you and him, and to help you get a sense of the scale of the creature itself, which is done really well. Again, we have this white haze over the character, as though he's so big and so far away that, like, there's actual, like, atmospheric distortions between you and him. being used. So he's desaturated, but he's still framed pretty generously against the sky by the background that he's framed against. We have a very low horizon line, like we have in the Malphite level 2 card, where like the horizon line is all the way down here. Our perspective too is down near the ground, like we can literally see grass growing next to where our perspective is from. So we get the sense of we're looking up from very far below on this very large thing that's moving around, and it works really well. Like it's a perfectly lovely little piece of art. Right, I don't think the Gallant Rider is new. Although I could check. No. Demacia only gets Sithri on the Ardent Tracker. Right. Ground Slam, that's just Malphite's spell. It doesn't really show anything good or interesting. I guess the next one is the Profiteer? Yeah. So here again, there's a fucking Yordle right there. And Riot, would you please just clarify? Are the Yordles meant to be these hidden fairy creatures that like stay out of sight and try to hide from humans? Or are they just like normal-ass creatures that are just around? The lore around Yordles is endlessly frustrating to me, and I know there's been internal battles at Riot about it as well. Like, I think there was a period of disagreement between the writers on what to do with the Yordles, so it kind of got postponed. And then Legends of Runeterra comes out and kind of just settles the argument by having Yordles everywhere, interacting with everyone all the time. It depends on the regions. Yeah, sorta, kinda, maybe. Not really. We definitely know that in Ionia, they know about Yordles, and there's, like, voice lines that specifically say, hey, there's a Yordle. I'm talking to a Yordle. Hi, Yordle. Hello, Yordle friend. But then, maybe in Piltover and Zaun, Yordles are, like, hiding, except they have a giant fucking statue of Heimerdinger outside the university, where he looks like a Yordle, so, I don't know. Anyway, this card. I kind of wish the Sunhawk's wings looked more realistically avian. Same bugbear I had with Kayle and Morgana. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's very much designed to look cool, rather than to actually look like wings that can actually fly. That's a fair criticism. Anyway, framing. Very obvious frame right there. We have the frame created by the stall and the, well, things that are holding it up. Pillars, whatever. Bielka. What the hell are they called in English? Doesn't matter. Which frames the Profiteer herself and their Yordle companion as well as the secondary character in the image. Tertiary character being the Merchant. And again, lighting, color, saturation, all over these two characters. But this character right here, mostly in shadow, mostly without a lot of lighting, and highly desaturated as a character. Like, there's like not a lot of visual interest on them, which creates an attention on these two. And one thing I really do appreciate about the background art here is the sumptuousness of it all. Like, that there's just stuff hanging everywhere. There's things just lying around. There's like there's just stuff. You get a sense of like this crowded space that's full of things and characters, which I really like. Oh, beams. Yeah. The Profiteer is definitely a plan/scrapped champion concept. No, I don't think so. Not necessarily. Okay, the room is getting cold. Now I need to close my window. There we go. Sorry about that. Took a little second. But yeah, that's about all there's to say about that, isn't there? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Promising future, nothing interesting going on in that card. But the Shrieking Spinner, on the other hand. So, ostensibly, this is an Elise card, right? Like, this is, go on, my sweet, let the others hear your call. You know how it excites them. You know how it pleases me. And it's the Shrieking Spinner, and it's a spider card. But is it just me, or does that look a little voidy? Like, just a bit with the purple and the extra eyes and the thing? Oh, this is an old card? Is it? Oh, yeah, shit, it's from the previous one. That's true. I just forgot about that. Which one's new here? Is that the Spirit Leech? No, that's not new here. God damn it, I need the list. I need the list. Hang on. Because Shadow Isles only get the wings and the wave. Yeah, so that's not new. It's been ages since the last stream. Is the next one really just like... Well, succumb to the cold, I suppose, but that's just Lysandra holding an ice crystal. Cold Resistance, which is just Frozen Thralls. I guess the next one is the Eye of the Rahorak? Here's a procession of reminders why Leona's armor looks bad. But anyway, framing. Same framing we've been talking about a million times already. You can see how the cliffs in the background create a framing for this thing to be outlined against not the sky, but against the bright golden light coming down from the sun up above. Framing right there. Cyclops soldiers, yeah. And then you have, like, just color and lighting drawing a lot of attention here. It's not the most saturated thing in the image. Like, there's plenty of saturation on the soldiers in the foreground, but you have this beam of light that literally creates, like, an arrow pointing straight to this arrangement of things up there in the foreground. So, like, as a architectural part of the image, it stands out. Like, whereas none of the soldiers stand out, right? Like, the soldiers is very anonymous. They're sort of very specifically designed to just be this line of things. This thing stands out as a singular thing in the image, where none of the soldiers do. Those helmets are so dumb, keyhole visors. Yeah, they're a little silly, I think. Like, they don't look very... They look like they would take away a lot of your peripheral vision for no good reason, frankly. But I guess they're designed just to look intimidating. Like, not all historical armor designs are very practical, after all. Like, just look at all the fucking cot pieces. But yeah, not a lot of interesting stuff to say about the eye, I don't think. At least not from me. Then we have Shadows of the Past. And I quite like this one, because it's just like, it's this card that just summons living shadows, right? For all your allies. So it's just this lineup of just set cosplayers. Just, you came to the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. Which I think is quite lovely. And there's the Preservationist. Almost forgot about the Preservationist. Oh, Sooty Love, thank you. Always enjoy getting to pop into these streams. Hope you're having a nice day. I am enjoying myself as well. And I'm enjoying having people listening to me babble on about cards for... How long have we been going? 2 hours and 40 minutes at this point. Long time. Actually, I think I need to sit down. I've been standing up this whole time. There we go. I have a desk I can adjust, thankfully. Nice to sit down. So, the Preservationist. I really like this creature for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's a cool design. Like, it's a cute little character design. But also because it implies that there are giraffes in Runeterra. Which, like, I mean, we know there's elephants, so I guess it makes sense. But this implies that in Shurima, they have giraffes. Which I just think is cool, because otherwise, what would they have based this thing on, if not a giraffe? Now I feel like the stream was a class. Yeah. Lore Twitter is releasing character art right now. Really? Hang on, let me go check that out. Just the concept art, right? Like, they've been doing that frequently over the past few weeks. Play Runeterra. What are you releasing? Oh, yeah. They've been releasing, like, the chip concept art and the Earth Elemental stuff. Yeah, I saw that. Anyway, little preservationist giraffe creature. So framing, it's a little bit less obvious here, but you have this branch right here, the ground leading over onto the tree itself, which creates this canopy and creates like this sort of circular, half-circular, wedgy space there for the preservationist to occupy. And so the lore behind this card, as near as I can tell, is that Zillion has managed to trap this garden, this last Icathian garden, in time, using time magic to make sure that it's not like that it sort of stays preserved the way that it is. And the preservationist is a little construct that goes around and helps make sure that things stay fixed, sort of, kind of, in time, where they're supposed to be. And that's what we're seeing here, is that, like, the garden is fixed in time, but not every part of the garden fully made it. So, like, you have these like, holes and missing bits and pieces of the plants and the trees and everything. That's, like, all the stuff that couldn't quite be saved kind of thing. Which is just a cool visual. Like, it's just a really cool visual concept. And it's just a cool character design. Like, I love the little robot designs. They're all very fun. Because, like, they have this, like, you see how the legs here behind, they have these little jars on them with sand in them, almost like the legs themselves are hourglasses. Like, there's lots of, you can also see, something I should have really pointed out with the other ones. You take a look at the decorations along its neck there. Like, you see that bright green and then the dark green, that little, it creates an hourglass shape there as well. So there's all these little time, like, visual signifiers of time happening over and over again. Could be based off a Bale Strider? No, I don't think so. I don't think it would be based off a Bale Strider, because those are only in the Freljord, and I don't know how the Icathians would know about them. Right. So, the Ardent Tracker. Interestingly, like, the main character of the card, when you see the card art, is the person, right? But the main character of the actual art is the dog, with the Ardent Tracker themselves as a secondary character. But the dog is the main character. First of all, because it's biggest, it's furthest forward. It has all of the detail on it. Like, it's more detailed, generally speaking, than the tracker themselves. And it's a little, and it's got, well, not so much light, because this is like a dark forest fire scene, so that you can't do direct sunlight in the same way. But it's lit up in the front, and it dominates the image. Whereas the Ardent Tracker is sort of this secondary following character who is directing the dog on where to go. Isn't that Quinn? Nope, that's not Quinn. This is the Ardent Tracker. It's a different character. It's a Demacian scout, so she might be from the same unit as Quinn, which is why she has a similar helmet, but she's not Quinn. And yeah, like, a bright background creates, like, a nice thing for these darker characters to be framed against. Like, especially the dog gets framed really well against this bright orange haze that's hanging over the entirety of the backdrop. And yeah, we have a Dutch angle, because again, this is an action shot. There's lots of stuff happening. We want our perspective to be a little bit off balance, to sort of mimic the energy of the thing that's happening in the picture itself. Yeah, not much to say about the harpoon. Okay, yeah, I was kind of considering just pushing through, but I'm gonna need, like, a 5-minute break just so I can go to the bathroom, so... No, that's not the right message. So I'll be back in just a bit. There we go. Sorry, I have to take Chip away from you now. And let's get back to business to defeat the Huns. Where were we? We were at the Monster Harpoon, which means the Stonebreaker is next. Oh, ever read the Stormlight Archive books? Nope, I have never looked. I don't know what those are. Right, so, the Stonebreaker. Once again, many of the same tricks are being used here as were used with... Oh, another super chat. You can really tell from the voice lines that Aurelia's troops are performers, not soldiers. I can't imagine what it was like when the Blossoming Blade had to kill someone for the first time. It's actually really sad. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing is like... Whew, it's all about the tragedy of the Noxian invasion. You know, it's about the tragedy of like, oh, having to deal with the invasion, having to deal with what happens to the land. It's like the core of the Ionian story. Right, so, moving on to Spike, whose name you can see why he has it, because he is a spike. He's this giant mountain spike that just pops out of the landscape, basically. You see that mountain? It's Leblanc, yeah. And that's like, very much like the composition, we talked about that before, the composition of the image, where if you have a triangular wedge in the center of the image, that's a good way to lead the eye. And help you people, like, pay attention to the thing that you want them to look at, which is Spike himself. Same tricks that we use with Malphite. You have the white haze all over everything, desaturating the character, making him look bigger and more and further away because of the distortions of the atmosphere. And we have lots of trees, and we have birds for scale. All of it helping to create this sense of this huge, large thing that's very far away, coming to life and pouring itself out of the ground. And as an added little detail, when you look at the trees... Like over here, you can see leaves are coming off them. And you look at the rocks over here, you can see those little chips of rock falling off them, as though the entire world is essentially trembling and shaking. Which makes sense, because mountains started walking. Yeah, and this one's not that interesting. It's just his face as he's shaking the ground. Alright, that's Chrono Shift. We already took a look at that one with Zillion. And Vanguard's Edge, we saw that with Irelia already, so now I think the next thing is the... Yeah, the Incisive Tactician. Spike is not a morning person. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what the deal was with those stone ring structures in Targon? No, not as such. They're just kind of part of the environment of Targon. And they are sort of associated with like rings and circles and spheres are all celestial objects. Like they're all signifiers of the celestial oftentimes, because, you know, orbits, because everything moves in circles in the sky, because the universe is organized around spheres and circles. So they're classic imagery for when it comes to communicating stuff like the sky. Where they came from, all these rock formations, we don't know. It's assumed they're just magically a part of Targon, the mountain itself. But there's no, as far as I know, there's no lore explanation for them directly. They weren't carved by people, as far as I know. Anyway, Captain Giant Moustache. So this guy right here, I believe, is the... I'm gonna have to turn off the filter to find him. I believe it's the Legion veteran, who is also one of the few confirmed queer characters in the game. He returned from the war on the brink of death, restored only by his husband's touch and the apothecary's bombs. So he's one of the few confirmed queer characters that we have in League of Legends. And he's hanging out there. So he's apparently associated with the Black Rose, or at the very least, someone that the Black Rose takes an interest in. And then we have the Incisive Tactician himself with an absolutely glorious moustache. Like, that's nearly Braum levels of glorious moustache on him right there. I will admit, very, very good moustache. Like, 9 out of 10. Hella moustache. Maybe he's his husband. Oh, I mean, yeah, that would be interesting. Probably not, but that would be interesting. That would be cool. He's Brahm's evil brother. Yeah. Captain Pringles. So, again, the stuff we've talked about already. We have the lighting doing the job of the character. We have the interesting, like, the frame you would expect to be this empty space underneath the canopy, right? And it does frame, like, it frames this mystery spy lady character in the background, and it frames who's wearing a hat shaped like a bell, and it frames, like, the Legion veteran here as like, participants around the table. But interestingly, the wedge shape of, like, this bit of fabric itself also creates, like, not the primary frame in the image, but it creates a frame for the incisive tactician himself to occupy right here. I wish he was playable. He kind of was at Vlad decks at the beginning, but the Scargrounds have made him obsolete. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Scargrounds makes it hard to play that. Yeah, like lighting, color, saturation. Everyone else in the scene is less color saturated than he is. And that's sort of the main things that draw attention to him. It also helps that, like, if you look at the eye lines in the image, we have, like, this guy looking at him, we have this guy looking at him, we have this guy looking at him. So, like, there's a lot of characters who are sort of inclining themselves towards him, looking to him for, like, what's he about to say? What's he about to do? That gives him power in the scene. Another thing that gives him power is that he has, like, the raised chin, and he's looking down at this other character that he's talking to, which, like, it gives him an air of command, like that very upright, very straight posture in terms of his body language, gives him an air of command over the other characters in the room, which, again, helps draw your attention to the character themselves. So, I think we're getting close to the end. But let's see what else is left. Size of tacticians, reinforcements, Wrath of the Sunderer, Rex, strength in numbers, sunk cost, the Clock Hand. Zillion's big boy. With the most explicit hourglass right at the center of the thing, too. And we have Zillion in the background here talking to the aspiring chronomancer. I believe they're doing some kind of magic science experiment or whatever. In the background there. And again, it's one of Zillion's big clock golems, and it looks really cool. Like, it's just a nice, cool clock golem design. Not a lot to say about it overall. Like, you have a little bit of framing with, like the thing that it's pulling. It's basically the thing that's powering the center of the tower. It's just walking around in a circle over and over again, pulling this crank, which then I think powers the mechanisms that exist inside Zillion's tower. I believe is the idea of this thing. It also acts as the guardian of the tower. It's the clock hand, is the guardian of Zillion's realm. So if that thing shows up, other characters have voice lines that are like, oh, that's not a good thing that he's showing up, because that means something is threatening the tower, probably. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's just a perfectly cool goal. Like, again, our perspective is really down low. Our perspective is really close to the ground, so we're looking up at it, and that, again, helps make it look bigger. And we have Zillion and the aspiring chronomancer for scale to tell us that, no, this is a large boy, this is a really, really big golem, you should be intimidated by him. And then we have the card Instant Century. And that's the one that I like a little bit better, because that one, well, actually does two things that are interesting. So, look at the detail on the golem here, right? Like, look at all the detail. Look at all, like, the lines along the bits of it. Like, you can see how there's cracks and crags and, like, weathering and, like, oh, all sorts of details on the golem. Now look at what he looks like in the spell card. Oh, he's, like, all smoothed out. He looks a little bit like an action figure. Actually, he looks a little bit more plasticky. So, again, that's that density of detail we talked about earlier. Like, where, like, you use a high density of detail to do specific things in the image. But for this image, because this is a spell card, and most people are never going to see the card art bigger than this, as compared to, like, this, you need to do something different with the level of detail. You need to scale it back a little bit, make it cleaner, so that it doesn't read as over-detailed and ugly. Anyway, yeah, what I like about the Instant Sentry as a spell card is the idea, okay, so you get this Instant Sentry, which the effect that it has is that it advances a landmark 4 rounds. Like, so it's this Instant Sentry, instant passage of time, and the implication being that if this thing starts pushing really hard on this crank in the tower, it generates time, it can basically fast forward time forwards, which I think is really cool. Like that there's this thing in Zillion's tower might actually control like the speed or flow of time and like move the tower forwards and backwards in time, which I think is like, well, it's a cool idea. Right, there's the bitch. And here, oh, right. This is such a fucking cool card too. Like the Blossom, like this is such a cool fucking card because you see this for the first time and you're like, oh, it's a scorpion, and then you see it again, it's like, oh no, wait, those are people. Those are all people with like different. They're wearing stuff, and it all forms like the shape of a scorpion. And they're like they're imitating a scorpion, and it's like a dance thing. It's like a performance. It's like a mimicry thing that there's like. It's like, oh shit, that's really fucking cool. That's a really fucking cool idea. It's like a combat formation, but they're using all these different bits to like imitate like a bug creature or a scorpion. And that just like as a concept, that just rules. Like Skarner rework is looking great. And I'll form the head. Yeah, it's just, like, yeah, like basically that's what it is. It's like a mega sword. But yeah, like and like yeah, as George's Dragon is saying in chat, I seriously want to see an animation of these guys fighting. It must be so sad. Yeah, like I want to see like an animated short where these guys like just take out like a whole group of Noxians by acting as like this dancing scorpion creature. Very cool. And so the lore behind it is that this lady here, Cinea, is like a really accomplished war dancer in Ionia. Like she's like a really accomplished, very well respected, famous virtuoso dancer person who was like refused to join the war until she saw Irelia doing war dancing on the front lines, and she was like, well, no, I need to be in the middle of this. So her personality is that of like the the stage diva. When you hear her voice lines in the game, actually, let's see if we can find them. Do we have? Yes, we do. We have Cinea's voice lines. You can hear them for yourself. Yoink and yoink.
Zinea, will you teach me to dance like you?
I can show you, but the movements must be yours. Your steps are more graceful with each passing day.
I just perform them. You perfect them.
Zinea, you are a master of your craft.
And fate has sent you to give my craft purpose. Now my latest work. Musicians, if you please.
May we do justice to your art.
Born a patrician, I became a soldier.
A snob and a brute. I expected no more.
For conquest! For empire!
They value cruelty over creation.
Know your enemy.
I behold the beast himself before me. Start us off. Lead the way. A prelude.
We are nothing.
So yeah, she's like as like a dance teacher or like an old Broadway diva kind of character, which I think is really cool. Like I really like that as a character idea for her, like to base her off that kind of vibe, that kind of energy. Right, so what else is left? Only Cythria? Only Cythria. Let's talk about Cythria, because we're going to need to actually start at King Jarvan III, right? So apparently Cythria is right here all along. This is her. You can see the 3 scars. You can see the haircut. This is Cythria. She's right there. And she's also here. Here's Cythria. And she's here, Cythria the Bold. And she's also the Vanguard Squire. It's another card further back. And here she is as Cythria, Lady of the Clouds, flying out on an expedition to find Prince Jarvan, who has been attacked by Noxians. There's just one problem. Cythria joined the Noxian army after that. She joined after... Okay, so if you've read the recently published novel, or novella for League of Legends, which is Garen First Shield, it's a story about how Cytherea is like a new recruit into the Dauntless Vanguard, and this is happening after the assassination of King Jarvan III, because it's after the Mage Rebellion has started. But now we get this card, which has her being like a full-fledged, like really high-ranking member of the Dauntless Vanguard before King Jarvan is assassinated. So what's the truth, Riot? What the fuck? And this is why I was saying earlier that the canon in Legends of Runeterra is soft, because this was pointed out to a rioter that, like, hey, Cytherea kind of can't be here doing that now, where they said, oh, well, sometimes we like to experiment with what-if scenarios, where it's like, we do, like, what if Cytherea have thing, and I don't know if they were just making it up as they went along to kind of explain that, oops, they did a big plot hole, but Cytherea is a time traveler now. I guess she just travels back in time and becomes an important member of the army before she joins it. So that's there. I need to ask a rioter about that, like, properly at some point, because what the hell is going on? By the way, the music, I forgot the music. But yeah, it feels like Zillion interfered or something. I don't know what the hell. But I do like the update to her design. Like, I like the scars. Like, more warrior characters should have scars, because they're warriors and they fight with swords, and sometimes you get hurt and sometimes you get a scar, and that's a very good visual tool to tell the story of a character having been in battle, that they have battle damage. This is another one of my little pet peeves. So the story that's going on behind this image, right, is that, like, out of nowhere, the call went out, Prince Jarvan is missing, and, like, he's in trouble, and we need to go find him. Like, this is, like, everyone's being scrambled, like sort of immediately, as we see with the gallant rider. Like, everyone's just, like, kind of, oh, God, get your helmets, yeah, everyone on the horse, fucking run, ah! Like, everyone's in a panic, everyone's just dashing away as fast as they can. Maybe Cytherea is, like, up there, and no one has time to prepare. This guy doesn't even have time to get his helmet. He, like, has to get it from another person. Everyone... And so, the question I have, I guess, is, how did Cytherea have time to lay perfect makeup? Like, before, like, scrambling into uniform and flying out. Just, no, just a moment, guys. I just need to finish my eyeliner. And, like, I need to get the wings on, right? Which is, and that's, the thing is, it has nothing to do with that. Like, there's no lore explanation, there's no nothing. It's because it's a character visual design trope. If you want to indicate a character's femininity, give them makeup. Like, and it's actually true that if you don't give female characters makeup a lot of the time, especially in, like, stylized fantasy art, if you don't give them makeup, a lot of people are likely to see them as either extremely androgynous or as male. And that's why they do it. It still annoys me. Like, I know why. It's because otherwise the character might read as male, and that's unintentional, and you don't want characters to perceive your female characters as male, because that's also a storytelling problem. But it just annoys me that we have this trope that's so heavily ingrained in artwork that when you see a character without makeup on, like, we have a tendency to just go, oh, male, probably? Because if girl, then why no makeup? But anyway, it's just my little bugbear. So this is a pretty simple composition. Cytherea is right at the center of the image. She has the sun behind her, creating this halo of light about her, washing out the colors of everybody else, so she's the only saturated thing. She's got a high density of detail. She's right in the center of the image. The wings of the silver wing that she's flying on points towards her. So do the triangular shapes of the armor pieces that it's got. And so does her lance. Like, everything leads your eye to Cytherea herself at the center of the image. Very simple composition, works really well. My girl is looking fantastic. I do hope that she, like, gets to be a wings, lady of the clouds, marshal of the sky, whatever character someday, once they resolve the time travel paradox. And that, unless I'm much mistaken, is the last new card. Sweet, we got through this in 3 hours. Well, 3 hours and a bit. You touched on it in your robot Overwatch analysis. Male is default. Yeah, it's a design trope that male is considered the default, and it sucks. It's very annoying. It's very annoying. So anyway, that is that's all the cards for now, which means I guess we open the floor to questions, and we put Chip back on screen because that's the only thing anyone wants to look at. Chip, where are you? There. Oh, Buried in Ice. Yeah, that spell isn't interesting. There's really nothing to see on it, I don't think. Well, there must be a default. Yeah, but the default doesn't have to be gendered. Like, the default can be no gender. It can be androgyny. Instead of being one or the other. That's also an option. Do you play League? I don't play Summoner's Rift anymore. Haven't done that in ages. I occasionally play an ARAM. Mostly I play TFT and Legends of Runeterra these days. Can you evaluate the level up animations of the new champions? That would be a separate video. I might do a video on the level up animations in Legends of Runeterra at some point. That's kind of in the cards, maybe, if I can get time for it. How come we've never seen any of your art? Because at this point, I mean, I used to be a commission artist for a living. So a lot of the art I created there is just not mine. Not mine to post. It's part of other people's projects. It's their avatars or commissions of their D&D characters or, you know, not safe for work stuff. And most of it's just old. Like, I've been doing YouTube for a few years now, and most of the art I have is just old. And so I don't really make a lot of new art, and I don't share it very often. I do have a pillow fort where I've put some of my old artwork up on. I can put a link in the chat. There. Like, some of my old art is on that thing, if you're curious. Like, the few pieces that I still like to look at. Because, like, I draw something and I hate how it looks the next day. That's always how it goes. Thoughts on the new TFT set? No, I haven't really played with it very much yet, so I don't really have any opinions on it. Did you already cover the champion art? Yes, we are at the end of the stream. Oh, I did a donation through Streamlabs. God damn it. Streamlabs, you bastard. I forgot to remove that link before I started streaming. I actually didn't want to use Streamlabs today, because it's so troublesome. I have to have a separate thing open to see the donations there. God, I hope I didn't miss more than one. Let's see. Oh, Small Leviathan. There it is. Hey, Sky, I have a motor skill-related disability that made me stop drawing as a teen out of frustration, but I recently got a tablet with the intent to start drawing again, and one of my big inspirations was you and your videos, so thanks. Stay awesome. Aw, it's kind. Thank you. And then there was one from Philizaros. Could you make a high-risk channel? I think I answered that question previously. Love your Pokemon stream. Hate... No, that's 17 days ago. That's a different thing. Yes. I think... Was that your donation? I hope it was. The Penitent Squire is Cythria. No, the Penitent Squire is a different character. Because this is the Penitent Squire, and they show up here as well. That's the Penitent Squire right there, and there's Cythria in the background. So they're different characters. Like, unless she's time traveling, maybe Cythria is both the Penitent Squire and also Cythria in that scene. Maybe they're both just the same person at different... I don't know. Maybe Zillion did something. Who knows? Is Malphite the literal father to Chip? Yeah, I believe so. Like, in the sense that Chip came from Malphite. Like, literally a chip off him. More like, I guess Chip is like more like a tiny little clone of Malphite, but yeah. Would you like to see Cythria as a champion? No. Like, well, depends. I would like, if they ever advance the story, I wouldn't mind if Cythria replaced Garen. Like, if they did a Garen rework and turned him into Cythria, and she just kind of took over from him because Garen, like, heroically sacrificed himself to save Lux or something in the story. I don't know, whatever. But I'd like to see that. But I don't know that I necessarily want her as a champion on her own. She would have to be changed a lot from her Legends of Runeterra incarnation, I think. Just to fit into the mold of a champion. Anyway, let's put Chip back on screen. What if the Lady of the Clouds is her mom? Would that line up? Yeah, I mean, if there was like her mother or like her older sister or whatever, then it could probably work. But it's not. It's Cythria. What do you think of Zillion's music and feel? I haven't actually listened to it yet. Like, I presume you mean the music on the Legends of Runeterra board? I haven't listened to it yet, so I can't really speak on that. Do you think they'll put Mundo in Legends of Runeterra when he gets his rework? Maybe? I don't know. Like, I guess they could. But that would depend on whether they could find a design for him. Like, because he would be a regeneration champion for Zaun, so that's something. But, like, depends on what kind of mechanics they would add to him, so I don't know. Do you think that Legends of Runeterra is a better game than League of Legends at this point? No. Like, I don't know how to measure that. Like, one is a card game, the other is a MOBA. So I don't know how to say one is better than the other. They're so different. I would say that I enjoy engaging with the art in Legends of Runeterra more. Did you catch any hidden teasers for the next region in the card arts? No, but I've also not been looking for it. What's my opinion on the Mundo rework? The way it looks right now, the stuff they've shared, I just think it's boring. Like, I just think it makes him more boring. Because they decided to make him look cool and hot, which is, like, not what Mundo is about. Like, that's not what's interesting about him to me. So, no. Has Riot asked for your input specifically on something? That's kind of hard to answer because, like, Rioters have occasionally asked for my opinion on things that I kind of can't discuss. Nothing major, like nothing, no big anything. Like it's not, they don't consult me about cards or like champions. None of that. Like occasionally Rioters have asked my opinions about a thing on like a small level, but Riot officially as a company, no. No. What about Smite and League, which is better? League. Smite's character design aesthetic is terrible. Like, it's all the worst things that League does, but turned up to 11. Well, I mean, maybe that's not fair. I haven't looked in on Smite in a long time. Maybe they've gotten better, but the last time I looked in on Smite, their character design aesthetic was just rancid. Like, it was just terrible. It wasn't even rancid. It was just boring. It was so boring. Why is Tiana Crownguard a baddie? What does she... Well, I mean, she's murdering all the mages and has been murdering them for a long time as part of the Demacian establishment. And she's married to, like... Tiana Crownguard is married to the leader of the Mage Seekers. Like, she's his wife. And the Mage Seekers are currently, like stealing children and murdering people a lot. So, you know... Is that her job, among other things? She's also the Marshal of the Demacian Army. Grand Marshal, I think. What do you think the new Pentacles song will be? I mean, they're coming out with a whole new album, so... Would the Void be a region in Legends of Runeterra? I don't think so. It could be, but I don't think so. Like, I'm curious. Like, well, actually... No, actually, I think you're right. I think they're setting up for the Void. I think the Void will be a region, because we haven't seen any Void champions anywhere else. Like, we haven't had, like, Rengar show up, like, or even champions that are associated with the Void, really, like, in that way. So we haven't had Kog'Maw show up, we haven't had Rek'Sai show up for Shurima. So maybe they will make the Void, like, a specific region. I think maybe they're doing something special with the Void, like making it a non-region. Like, that Void creatures can just, like, they can act like a third region in your deck, so that you can slot them into anything, even if you have 2 other regions. I don't know. I think they'll do something special with the Void, but yeah, I think you're right. It probably will be a region. You think Kassadin would be Void or Shurima? That depends. Like, same question with Kai'Sa. Is like, if the Void is a region, they'll probably have, like, the Void-associated humans like Malzahar, Kai'Sa, and Kassadin be associated with the Void. What do you think of the Udyr rework teasers? Well, they haven't teased anything yet. They've shown us a little bit of early exploration concept art. And, like, this is the stuff that they do, like, before anyone has even touched a programming tool. Like, no one has... Like, nothing has been done about Udyr's characters on yet. They've just shown us, like 3 sketches, or a little sheet of sketches of potential possible maybe directions for his look. And they mostly look okay. Like, I think with Udyr, they're not going to touch him too much. Like, I don't think they're going to change him that much. I just think they're going to make him look more Freljordian. And that's kind of all they have to do. They just have to update him so that he makes sense. Like, so that he has a decent character model, and then make him look like he's from the Freljord, because that's where he is now. Isn't technically the Watcher card in the Freljord a Void character? Yes, this is true. Fair enough. Love you, Skyen. Nope, you love the idea of me. You have never met me. Can a Bakai turn to a Darkin? Probably not, because the Darkin were transformed, like, over centuries and centuries by blood magic, and by trauma from having fought the Void directly, and I don't think the Bakai fought the Void directly like that. I love your work, Skyn. Yes, this one I accept. You can absolutely love my work, but you can't love me because you've never met me. What are your thoughts on those walking elemental explorations on Summoner's Rift? I really liked... oh, yeah, if people haven't seen this... let me just find that for you, because it's really cool. Where are you? There you are. There. So this thing... It's a piece of concept art that they posted. This is not canon in any way, shape, or form. It's not an actual card in Legends of Runeterra or anything. But this is, like, they made this exploration idea of, hey, what if we made Summoner's Rift a character? So there's Summoner's Rift on the back of a walking earth elemental. Which was, like, maybe going to be part of like, the Malphite. This was a concept for a Malphite follower that they didn't do. It was just an exploration, but, like, I really want them to do it. I want them to do it. I want them to make it canon. I want them to... Summoner's Rift is like a walking earth elemental. I want them to make it canon. I definitely want them to make it canon. Because that would fucking rule. Anyway... I appreciate your work, but I also have some criticisms against some statements you make. Yeah, most people do. That's fair enough. Anyway, are you considering making a collaboration video with Subjectively? I've never spoken to them, so no. Like, we've never talked to each other, so if they want to, I'm up for it, but we've never talked to them. What would a summoner be post-institute? Just a wizard, I guess? Just a mage of some kind? But yeah, I think this must be the end of the stream then. Because I kind of want to go and get some dinner. And some water. And rest my voice a little bit, because I can feel that it's kind of... talking for 3 hours straight just kind of do a number of your throat. So have a good one, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I'm gonna turn this into little into 1 hour chunks, and I'm gonna put them up on my second channel as an archive, so that it's a little bit easier to watch rather than watching a 3 hour thing in one sitting. So you can go and look at that later when I put it up there. See you around, kids. Thanks for tuning in.